Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel's Unlimited Upgrade System. Chapter 81. Who am I? Debt collectors, Locke said lightly, and then raised his pistol and continued to shoot. However, at this moment, a colorful wave of light shot out from the chest of Stane's steel suit, and the speed and power far exceeded Locke's blue energy wave. Before Locke could react, he was hit by the colorful light wave. Suddenly, Locke's whole person was bombarded and flew out. Not only that, even the clothes on his body were directly shattered, and the powerful colorful light waves left shocking wounds on his body. You must know that his clothes are all upgraded, and his physique has reached a terrifying 3000, which is completely steely. But now there is such a shot, the clothes that were originally invulnerable to swords and guns, and the bullets did not invade, were so torn, and the flesh was also injured. According to the system, this is only less than 1,000th of the energy of the super-dimensional divine bead fragment, and the key fragment is only the size of a grain of rice. Less than 1,000th of the energy of a rice-sized fragment can injure Locke, a monster with a physique of more than 3,000. How powerful will the entire energy of the complete trans-dimensional divine bead? Locke didn't dare to think about this. Ha ha ha, this feeling is really amazing. I am the god of this world at this moment. Who can stop me? With the continuous release of energy, Stane himself seemed to be affected by the super-dimensional divine bead, and became more and more arrogant. I almost capsized in the gutter. Locke looked behind his shoulder, and there was an incomparable murderous aura erupting in his eyes. Fortunately, that shot did not hit his fatal part, otherwise even he would have lost his combat effectiveness immediately. Fortunately, it was the left shoulder that was hit, although this would also affect the play of his strength, but at least it would not make him completely unable to fight, and with his super self-healing ability, he would have seen that his wounds were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Where is the little sluggish, vulnerable to Stane said mockingly. Then, he jumped and went straight to Tony Stark, and then a huge steel giant fist smashed towards Tony Stark, who was still fleeing, and his goal today was to kill Tony Stark. In this way, the whole company belongs to him. Seeing that he was actually despised by Stane, Locke almost swallowed a mouthful of old blood in anger, and if you don't clean you up today, this face is lost. Thinking like this, Locke put the energy wave pistol into the system backpack. At the same time, his feet suddenly exerted force, and with a bang, he saw the earth under his feet shattered, and his whole person appeared in front of Tony Stark in an instant like electric light. Then a human fist that was far from the steel giant fist burst out. Suddenly, the steel giant fist and the meat fist collided together. This seemingly suspenseless scene in Tony Stark's eyes had an unimaginable ending, only to see that Locke, who was bound to be beaten in his eyes, not only did not lie down, but steadily maintained a punching posture. And Stane, who is bound to have the upper hand in his eyes, not only did not gain the upper hand in this punch fight, but was shocked by Locke's punch and flew out upside down. Suddenly, from Tony Stark's amaze value plus 594 inches. You must know that Stane's steel armor is made of special stainless steel, and how much steel is used for that huge block, this Tony can see at a glance. For that size steel suit, it would cost at least 10 tons of steel, and then cut at 7 or 8, and the rest would also weigh several tons. But now such a heavy steel suit was shocked by Locke's punch with the power of his flesh, which shows how amazing Locke's strength should be. So, how could he not be shocked by this? How did he know that today's Locke is completely comparable to the existence of green fat in terms of strength, and the weight of a few tons is only a few tons? Even with the power of Stane's punch, it is impossible to exceed 100 tons. And what Locke now has is a 100-ton level of strength. Under one punch, the wind swept the clouds, destroying the decay, and the stone broke the sky. In this way, a punch to shock Stane back is completely a normal operation. Constantly retreating by a punch, Stane also looked incredulous, and his eyes were full of shock. Plus 612 praise from Obadiah. Stane. How is it possible? Is this kid a monster? Stane spoke incredulously to himself. And at this moment, Locke flicked his big hand, and the Zontai Miao Dao suddenly appeared, and then his whole person turned into a gust of wind and rushed towards Stane. What is the use of light having powerful energy? Your flaws all over your body doom you to failure. This ambition to dominate the world is not something that anyone can have. In just an instant, Locke's figure had already appeared in front of Stane. Stane looked shocked. He subconsciously raised his fist and smashed towards Locke, but Locke only slightly sided, easily dodged his attack. So fast, Stane exclaimed. Then, as if he didn't want to believe it, he turned his fist to hit Locke madly, and in the face of the stormy fist, Locke sneered, and then, a sword light suddenly came out of the sheath. 8 Wilderness 6 Combined Knife, 5th Style, Pick the Rain. Locke groaned, and the seedling knife in his hand turned into an afterimage. The speed of the knife was as fast as a flash, but in the blink of an eye, his knife was retracted again. Ding! That's the sound of a knife. Then, the sound of crackling parts bursting, and then Stane was shocked to find that the 2 metal arms of his steel armor began to fall off. In just an instant, his steel suit turned into an armless suit just like Tony's. The trick of picking up rain is fast and ruthless, which means that even in the midst of a downpour, the cultivator can hold a knife and easily chop the rain that he wants to chop, so it is picking rain. Stane's constantly bombarding fist is naturally not comparable to falling rain, so being hit by it is a simple matter. No, it can't be. What the hell are you? Stane roared in horror. The steel suit without arms, it is equivalent to losing combat effectiveness, this is beyond doubt. I said, I'm a debt collector, I'll take back what should belong to me, you are not qualified to take this thing. Locke pointed to the arc reactor of the steel suit, and then said calmly. Nonsense, this is mine, it will always be mine, no one can take it away. Stane roared and quickly kicked Locke, but was easily avoided by Locke again. However, Stane seemed to have guessed that Locke would react like this, and instead of continuing to attack, he took himself out by the inertia of kicking, and then the jets at his feet burst into action. Suddenly, Stane's steel suit flew up. Is this trying to escape? But did you escape? Locke smiled mockingly, and then used his air-stepping skill to catch up. But at this moment, Stane suddenly turned his body towards him, and then saw the reactor on his chest light up with an incomparably dazzling colorful light. Because of the blow just now, he knew that the one who could kill Locke was the colorful light wave on his chest. Boy, you go and die with Tony. Stane laughed, and then planned to shoot out the colorful light waves on his chest. Seeing this, Locke's face couldn't help but be surprised. The speed of this colorful light wave is too fast, that is completely the speed of light. Therefore, once shot, with his current strength, he can't dodge at all, which is basically a trick in 100 shots. However, fortunately, it takes a long time from energy gathering to launch, so if you can grasp this gap and preemptively strike during his energy charge, there will be no problem of dodging. When he thought like this, his ability to step on the air immediately burst out. Suddenly, he stepped on the void, like a god, and once again turned into an afterimage and rushed towards Stane, but at the same time, the vitality in his body was also frantically gushing towards Meow Dao. Suddenly, the purple lightning gem located on the seedling knife burst out Dao lightning, and without hesitation, Locke held the knife and slashed out fiercely. Blast! Locke hissed. Suddenly, a purple thunderbolt flew out rapidly, and instantly bombarded Stane's steel suit, and the powerful thunder and lightning force burst out. Because Stane's steel armor was cut off 2 arms, so the powerful current immediately drilled into the steel armor along the gap. Suddenly, Stane was constantly trembling with electricity, and the reactor that was originally lit up with colorful light immediately dimmed down. Good opportunity. Seeing this, Locke couldn't help but be overjoyed. His feet kicked in the void, and he instantly appeared in front of Stane. Then, in Stane's horrified eyes, Locke's seedling knife stabbed over what kind of power Locke was, and how sharp the S.H.I.E.L.D seedling knife was. It's just steel, and piercing it is a piece of cake. Not surprisingly, Locke's knife pierced Stane's steel suit, and then pierced Stane himself. Immediately afterwards, Locke's other hand formed a claw, grabbed the colorful arc reactor on the chest of Stane's steel suit, and then he pulled the arc reactor in his hand. Nope. Watching the reactor being robbed, Stane roared heartbreakingly. Seeing this, Locke smiled indifferently, ignoring his roar at all, but kicked him down with a big kick. The steel suit without a power source was already falling downward, which would be kicked by him, and the speed of the fall couldn't help but become faster. Then, in less than a second, Stane and his bulky steel suit rumbled into the hard ground. Stane was fatally stabbed by Locke, fell and suffered a powerful shock, and he only struggled for a moment before he could not move. Obviously dead, can't die anymore. At this point, Locke couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and then his eyes moved to the colorful reactor in his hand. At that moment, the reactor that was originally bright with colorful light gradually dimmed down, and then completely disappeared, and the original white light of the reactor disappeared. Obviously, all the nuclear energy in this reactor was swallowed and fused by the transdimensional divine bead fragments. Seeing this, Locke squeezed his big hand and easily burst the reactor, and suddenly a colorful crystal the size of a rice grain fell into the palm of Locke's hand. And before Locke could see for long, the colorful fragments directly turned into a pool of colorful liquid and drilled into Locke's body as before, and then disappeared without a trace. However, in his head, an icy voice sounded. Fusion of the super-dimensional God bead fragment, the system energy is replenished to 13%, and the abilities carried in the fragment will appear in the system mall in the form of goods, please know the host. 13%, that is, this small transdimensional divine bead fragment only provides 3% of the energy. Looking at the words in front of him, Locke was full of disappointment. Debris is lost for too long, and the energy consumption is serious, this is normal. The system responded. By the way, you just said that the ability carried by this fragment is able to devour fusion energy, and there happens to be a big guy in it, do you want to devour it? Locke pointed to the large arc reactor inside Stark Enterprise. If the host is willing to spend enough praise in exchange for the ability to devour fusion energy, the system does not mind the host doing so. A cold, mechanical voice sounded. Hearing this, Locke was immediately speechless. He almost forgot that once all the fragments of the super-dimensional divine bead were fused by the system, they would turn into the most primordial energy for the complete operation of the system, and the capacity carried in the fragments would become commodities displayed in the system's mall. If you want to use it, you need to exchange it with the praise value. I have to say that this condition is too bad. Obviously it is something that you get back by your strength, but in the end, you have to use the praise value to buy it. The money for co-authoring this wool and buying it was all out of your own. Forget it, this time to devour fusion energy will take a long time, I still don't want it. Locke waved his hand, and the admiration value he had earned was better spent on his own equipment. Thinking of almost being hit by that colorful light to the finale just now, Locke couldn't help but be afraid for a while. It was time for his equipment to continue to upgrade. Since the appearance of the super-dimensional divine bead, the guy he has met now is really becoming more and more perverted, and the devil knows what will appear later, or make himself strong first. With such a mentality, Locke shook his head, and then looked at Tony behind him, who looked at him at the moment like he was looking at a monster, and his eyes were full of dullness. Sorry, you knocked out your little arc reactor, I guess you wouldn't mind, wouldn't you? Locke said with a smile as he helped Tony up. Tony. The battle with Stane didn't last long, and by the time the police arrived, Locke had already left with Tony. And the next thing is left to Tony to handle. As for who Tony will eventually hand over to deal with, this is not Locke knows. By helicopter, Locke and Ottilia returned to school smoothly. It was already evening, and the time was not early. Locke wanted to go straight home, but was pulled to the dormitory by Ottilia, which was called a makeup class. Locke knew what she meant, and it was too incredible to talk and laugh with the head of the Stark group in a small learning of herself. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Ottilia wouldn't have believed it was real. And the more shocking things are, the more they can stimulate people's curiosity, and Ottilia is naturally the same. Locke, who knew that he could not escape, had to obediently follow Ottilia to the dormitory. Then under a false and true explanation, it can be regarded as getting Ottilia done. You really know ancient martial arts, no wonder you have such strong strength, this is really incredible, I mean this is really too cool. As soon as she thought of Locke's performance today, Ottilia looked at Locke with adoration, and she was a complete fangirl. Haha, don't say that, I'll be proud. Locke touched his head, a little embarrassed. Being praised by women so much, few men don't like it, and it's the women they like who praise themselves. Honey, I can't do it, the more I look at you now, the more handsome I become. Teacher, I'm itchy now, I have to make up for you. With that, Ottilia quickly plated Locke. Suddenly, a wonderful percussion instrument song echoed in the huge campus. After feeding Ottilia's charming Persian cat, Locke returned home without hurry. Today, Alice had sent a message to Locke very early because she had several relatives at home, saying that she would not come to him tonight. In this way, Locke had time to go to the system mall to take a look. Since turning on the system mall function, Locke has never entered to see it, and today is the first time. Open the system mall. Locke commanded by consciousness. Suddenly, a huge interface appeared in front of Locke's eyes. This interface is the same as the game store interface of some online games he has played, and it also sells some strange things, but compared to those games, this store does not sell much. Essence cleansing pill from a certain fantasy world, selling price, 60,000 points of astonishment value. Condensing chi pill from a certain fantasy world, selling price, 100,000 points of astonishment value. Ancient martial arts from a certain ancient martial arts world, selling price, 30,000 points of astonishment value. Energy wave launcher from some ultra high-tech world, selling price, 5,000 praise value. This mall is divided into several modules, which are pills, skills, and weapons and equipment. Among them, the pills contain some magical pills, but so far Locke had seen several pills and potions he had taken appear in it, and the other potions and pills were dim, indicating that they could not be sold now. As for the skills, most of them are things that Locke has learned. The only difference is that there is an extra energy-devouring fusion ability, and some professional knowledge about high-tech technology that Locke can't understand at all. These high-tech knowledge should have been obtained from that super technology world, but I didn't expect that all of them were placed in the skill class. Locke can guarantee that even a little bit of these ultra-tech expertise will be enough to turn their world upside down. If he can learn it all, then his development in the field of science and technology will definitely not be smaller than that of a genius like Tony Stark. Locke's mind is not on it. Engaging in scientific and technological research is too boring and cumbersome, far less comfortable than simply engaging in women. Moreover, the selling price of these skills is too high, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of praise values at every turn, and the energy-devouring fusion skill has reached an astonishing 200,000 praise values. Locke just took out all the current belongings, and he couldn't afford to buy them at all. Combined with his hobbies and cruel reality, he feels that he should obediently be a beautiful man who is liked by women. After reading the skills, his gaze moved to the weapons and equipment, which included a variety of weapons and armor. Weapons include cold and hot weapons, and armor contains some armor. However, the things in this category are extremely rare, except for the energy wave pistol, which can be purchased. The other weapons and equipment are all dim, and it is obvious that they are not available for sale for the time being. After looking around, Locke couldn't help but feel that the role of this mall was a bit chicken now, and he always felt that this was a game set up by the system to earn his amazement value. Except for the few pills inside, which Locke kind of wanted to buy for his own women, the other things really couldn't mention his desire to buy, so he withdrew directly from the mall interface. At present, his attention should still be focused on the upgrade of his current equipment. As for the things in the mall, how can it be meaningful after fusing more super-dimensional fragments, and then increasing the type of goods to a certain extent? Thinking like this, he immediately began to upgrade his current equipment. First of all, the clothes that were easily rumbled by the colorful light waves today. He originally thought that with his current physique, the defensive power of the clothes was already a dispensable existence. But after today's battle, he found that he was still too young and his ideas were too simple. Less than 1,000th of the energy of a piece the size of a grain of rice can blast his clothes to pieces, and if he encounters a larger fragment next time, then he will be bombarded once. Wouldn't he just burp? So, just thinking about it, Locke felt a little cold on the soles of his feet. Therefore, clothes and pants must be upgraded, which is Locke's obsession now. Without much hesitation, Locke's consciousness moved, and information about the rank attribute of the clothes was displayed in front of his eyes. Clothes, white level 55-8, defense 170, whether to upgrade. Upgrading to white LV9 costs 9,000 praise points, plus 50% defense after upgrade, and has the opportunity to awaken an additional ability. Don't care, let's go up 2 levels in a row. With a glance at the upgrade information, Locke spent 19,000 praise points to upgrade his clothes to LV10. Clothes, white level 55-10, defense 375, with self-cleaning and form change functions. The change function is recorded once from the beginning of the change to the recovery. The duration of the intermediate is unlimited. Once the end of a change, you need to wait 20 minutes before continuing the next change. After upgrading twice in a row, in addition to the increased defense and the cooldown time of the change skill, there is no other additional ability to awaken. What a pit. Locke shook his head and said with a wry smile. Now he still has a total of 176,221 points of astonishment points, and now he used 19,000 points at once, and immediately became a 155,221. This astonishment value is actually less, but if it is compared to the number and degree of upgrades he wants to upgrade, it is really too bad. In this way, he naturally had to calculate it well, and it was best to be able to exert the praise value effect to the maximum, but now that he had failed to awaken the extra ability after 2 consecutive upgrades, he naturally felt depressed. More than 3,000 of my physique were easily injured by that colorful light wave, and the defense power of this 375 is really not enough to see. Even if you add it to my physique, it's only about 3,375, even if you still can't block the threat of that light wave. No, you have to continue to upgrade. It's best to awaken some awesome extra ability, then it's best. Quote. With this thought, Locke did not hesitate much, immediately moved his consciousness, and planned to upgrade his clothes again. Clothes, white level 5510, defense power 375, has reached the white level consummation stage. Do I need to upgrade the item to the blue level? Leveling up costs 10,000 likes, and after leveling up, your defense will increase exponentially, and you will have a great chance to awaken an extra ability. Quote. Multiples growth. Is it so powerful? So what are you waiting for? Boost now. As soon as he heard the exponential increase, Locke's eyes straightened. What was really missing? But what surprised him even more was that just when Locke was about to start improving the quality of his clothes, the cold voice of the system suddenly sounded. Host, in view of your hard work performance in this period of time, the system decided to open a back door for you. If you are willing to consume 10,000 more surprise points when the level is raised, the system can ensure that the probability of additional ability awakening is 100%, and the ability can be picked by you in the skill class of the system mall. Of course, the premise is that the ability is already available for sale. What? Spend 10,000 more points to ensure that you are 100% awakened to additional abilities, and you can still choose your own abilities. Hearing this, Locke was startled, and then his face was incredulous. Yes, the system's icy voice affirmed. Why do I sound a little conspiratorial? You would be so kind. Locke said a little reluctantly. The host is too careful. I am only the agent housekeeper of the system, but I am also part of the system, so I also hope that the system can replenish its energy as soon as possible and return to its peak state. The basis for rapid replenishment of energy is the need for the host itself to be strong. Therefore, within the scope of this housekeeper's ability, I will try to help the host grow rapidly, and this benefit is only available when the grade is improved. Once missed, the housekeeper cannot help the host, so I hope the host takes it seriously and don't miss it. The system's icy voice explained. Anyway, whether what you said is true or not, I seem to have nothing to do with you. Since that's the case, then I will believe you once, add 10,000 more praise points, and then awaken the skill. Let me think first. Locke nodded silently, then touched his chin and thought. After a long time, Locke finally thought it through. I choose to awaken the energy-devouring fusion ability. Locke said firmly. The reason why he chose this ability is because he has seen the perversion of this ability before. Even nuclear energy, which can destroy the sky and the earth, can absorb and devour, so on this earth, what energy cannot be absorbed and swallowed by this ability? And once his clothes awaken this ability, it means that he is almost immune to all physical and magical attacks. Because whether it is a physical attack or a magic attack, it has an energy effect, and his clothes are just able to devour energy, so wouldn't it be able to achieve the effect of immunity? Of course, all this depends on the efficiency of this ability to absorb devouring energy. If the efficiency is too slow, it is impossible to avoid it all. But in any case, this is an excellent start. After all, the ability can be continuously improved by the praise value. In this way, as long as he earns enough praise value in the future, then this ability can be continuously strengthened, and it is not impossible to be completely immune in the future, so he will naturally resolutely choose this ability. What a wise decision, the cold voice of the system praised. With that, the clothes on Locke's body flashed a light that only Locke could see. Suddenly, his clothes were raised to the blue level. Clothes, blue level 55-0, defense 1125, self-cleaning and form change functions, and energy-devouring fusion ability. The self-cleaning function is performed automatically every 10 minutes. The change function is recorded once from the start of the change to the recovery. The duration in between is unlimited. Once a change is ended, it takes 15 minutes to continue the next change. Energy devouring fusion ability. Devouring fusion attribute +1, can swallow all kinds of energy. Devouring fusion speed is 200,000 joules s. And the host can release the absorbed energy in the form of energy waves at any time. Quote, what? The devouring speed is 200,000 joules per second, and it can also be absorbed and then released. That's too strong. Locke looked shocked. You must know that 1,000 grams of TNT can burst out 4.2 million joules of energy in an instant, and a grenade is roughly equivalent to 50 grams of TNT, which is equivalent to the release of 200,000 joules of energy. That is to say, his current clothes can swallow the power of a grenade explosion in an instant, and then release it in the form of energy waves, coupled with the skyrocketing defense power of this clothes. Now this clothes are simply hanging from the sky. How could he not be shocked? And this is only the state where the devouring fusion is instantly won. As far as he knows, these attribute points can be improved by the praise value. In this way, the higher he improves, then the greater the energy that this dress can devour, let alone grenades, missiles, or even nuclear explosions cannot hurt him in the slightest. At the thought of this, Locke was almost excited and about to take off. So, he immediately set his sights on his other equipment. After upgrading his clothes, he still had a total of a little more than 130,000 praise points. According to the consumption of upgraded clothes, upgrading pants requires almost as much astonishment value, that is, 39,000 points. Without hesitation, his consciousness moved, and immediately the information of his pants jumped out. Sweatpants, white level 55-8, defense 170, upgrade. Following the steps of upgrading clothes, Locke directly raised his pants to the level of blue level L0. Pants, blue level 55-0, defense 1125, self-cleaning and form change functions, and energy devouring fusion ability. The self-cleaning function is performed automatically every 10 minutes. The change function is recorded once from the start of the change to the recovery. The duration in between is unlimited. Once a change is ended, it takes 15 minutes to continue the next change. Energy devouring fusion ability. Devouring fusion attribute +1, can swallow all kinds of energy. Devouring fusion speed is 200,000 joules s. And the host can release the absorbed energy in the form of energy waves at any time. Quote, the attribute information of the pants is basically the same as the clothes, so his lower body is also equally protected. Then, he continued to upgrade his shoes. His sneakers were already at the level of white LV10, so Locke only needed to spend 20,000 praise points to upgrade them to the same level as clothes and pants. I didn't think much about continuing to choose the upgrade. Sneakers, blue LV0, agility 1140, can burst the wearer to a speed of 60 meters per second, has self-cleaning function and super bounce function and energy devouring fusion ability, as well as form change function and stepping ability. The super bounce ability is enhanced, allowing the wearer to easily jump up to 150 meters high. The void pedal ability allows the wearer to step on the void for 30 seconds, and the usage time can be paused at any time until it accumulates 30 seconds, which counts as 1 and cooldown as 7 seconds. The energy devouring fusion attribute is +1, which can swallow all kinds of energy, and the devouring fusion speed is 200,000 joules s. And the host can release the absorbed energy in the form of energy waves at any time. Quote, except for the difference in the ability to partially awaken, the rest is basically the same as clothes and pants. In the end, he spent another 54,000 praise points to directly upgrade the non-alloy gloves from white LV6 to blue LV0. Nano alloy gloves, blue grade 55-0, defense power 1150, with self-cleaning function, form change function, teleportation ability, energy devouring fusion ability. Airlift, using this ability to form an invisible hand within 100 meters, grab any item. The size of the invisible hand can be up to 10 meters, and the size can be automatically adjusted with the host. The energy devouring fusion attribute is +1, which can swallow all kinds of energy, and the devouring fusion speed is 200,000 joules s. And the host can release the absorbed energy in the form of energy waves at any time. Quote, looking at the words in front of him, Locke was shocked again, this time no longer because of the ability to devour fusion energy, but because of the ability called telescopic. Being able to form an invisible big hand with a maximum of 10 meters within 100 meters is simply not too cool. This is completely the power of awakening space. Unable to help but be curious, Locke immediately withdrew from the system interface, and then shook the door a few meters away from him with his big hand, and suddenly he had the feeling of holding the doorknob. So, he gently twisted and pulled in the air, and actually opened the door of his house, and suddenly the cold wind whistled in, making Locke couldn't help but snort. Seeing this, Locke immediately closed it again, and then his big hand shook the water cup on the table in the distance, and then he saw that the water cup actually floated out of thin air, and then quickly flew towards him under his control and sent it to his mouth. Ha ha ha, cool, this ability is too practical, it is simply a must for lazy people. Locke laughed. Then, as if he had thought of something, he grabbed the fish tank in the distance, and suddenly the fish in the fish tank were caught by him from the fish tank, but he quickly put it back. Then he thought about picking up nuts from a closed box, but then he found that this ability was ineffective. It seems that the role of this invisible big hand is similar to the real big hand, and it cannot pass through space, but can only act on the surface of objects. After a few trials, Locke fully understood the effect of this ability. This ability is a big hand that can move, the hand can open the door, so it can also, the hand can hold the cup, it can also, the hand can catch fish in the open fish tank, it can naturally too. But if he wants to get something in a confined space without opening the lid, this ability will immediately fail, because this point cannot be done by real hands. Although it is not as heaven-defying as I imagined, this is already a very perverted ability, and with this ability, my combat range and combat style will increase exponentially. I will be stronger. Locke had already thought of the infinite possibility of this ability. As for how to use it in the future, we can only wait and see. At this point, Locke has a total of more than 20,000 praise values left. These praise values Locke did not intend to use, but stayed for unpreparedness. After upgrading most of the equipment, it was already quite late. And just as Locke was about to sleep, a subtle sound sounded from outside the door, and Locke couldn't help but be startled and immediately activated his chi sense. Suddenly, he found that a woman in black with a hot figure appeared outside his door, and she was sneakily prying the door. Seeing this woman in black, Locke was first stunned, and then felt a little funny, because this woman was no one else but a black widow who had disappeared for many days. Slowly standing up, Locke immediately opened the door with his invisible big hand, and then he said lightly while pouring wine into the cup on the table. The famous Miss Black Widow has not been seen for a long time. If you want to come in, you just knock on the door, do you need to pry my door? Quote. Looking at the suddenly opened door, Black Widow was obviously a little shocked, and then she was a little embarrassed. When did you kid change the key to my door? Quote. Black Widow said as she twisted her willow-like waist and walked in, then gently closed the door with her foot. My girlfriend changed, she is afraid that the family can easily enter other women. Also, when did my home become yours? Locke glanced at Black Widow. I'm all your woman now, your home is naturally my home, my own master has to pry the door when he goes home, it's really pitiful, one day I'll go find your little girlfriend to get the key. Black Widow walked up to Locke with a relaxed expression, then took a sip of the wine glass. You dare. Hearing that Black Widow was going to find Alice, Locke's face immediately became gloomy. Seeing this, Black Widow smiled, and then pretended to be dissatisfied. You kid also spoils your little girlfriend too much, it's also your woman, you are too biased like this. Quote. Well, let's not talk about this, you disappeared for so long, where did you go? Locke asked curiously. Why, that's why you remembered to care about me. Black Widow smiled. Do you still need my care? If you don't come back, I have reason to suspect that you are looking for a man. Locke shrugged. Look what you said, I am such a woman in your eyes. Black Widow's face was a little lost. What kind of woman it is, I don't know, you know best. Locke smiled and didn't delve into it. Nick sent me on a mission some time ago, just came back today, I can't wait to see you, I didn't expect you to care about people at all, people are really disappointed. Black Widow looked sad. What mission went for so long? Locke's brain is running rapidly. As far as he knows, several major events in Marvel have the participation of Black Widow, but he doesn't know what task the other party is involved in now. It's nothing, it's just that I found an old friend I haven't seen for a long time. Black Widow said lightly. She didn't seem to want to tell Locke about this, and it was also said that this was Nick's task. This kind of thing was confidential, and she still had the basic quality of secrecy as an 8th level agent. But even with an understatement, Locke heard quite a lot of information from this sentence, although Black Widow's old friends are many, but each is a famous character. In this way, combined with the time he is now, he can roughly speculate about some, such as Hawkeye, Super Daredevil, Captain America and so on. However, Black Widow specifically emphasized this time for a long time, so that only Captain America matched. It seems that Captain America has been dug up by them from the extremely cold place. I'm here for you to relax, don't talk to me about this, tell me about you. I heard that you had a conflict with Nick. Black Widow smiled. Contradiction. Friends will make conflicts. I and he have never been friends, we are a partnership of interests. Since it is cooperation, then we have to talk about credit. Promised me things are not done, then it is regarded as a breach of cooperation. So do you think I still need to be polite with him? Locke said calmly, as if he was saying something that had nothing to do with him at all. I haven't seen it for a while. I didn't expect you to be so tough. It's worthy of being the man that the old lady fancy. It's great. Black Widow smiled like a flower, and then one of her hands wrapped around Locke's neck, and then blew hot air into Locke's ear. Locke, your situation, whether in medicine or in the people, has already been answered. What answer? Black Widow wondered. Medical student, you call this masochism, folk saying is called S.M. lovers, and I can send you another explanation. Locke said with a smile. What explanation? You call this, Sao? Locke said lightly. Nasty. How can you say this about people? But since you have said so, then if I don't make a fuss, won't I be sorry for the explanation you sent? How? Is there any interest in abusing me? Black Widow said as she bit her lip and made a mouthwatering expression. Seeing this, Locke could withstand it and directly picked her up. But at this moment, the Black Widow in his arms gasped, and then a hideous expression appeared on her face, looking extremely painful. Locke couldn't help but be stunned, and immediately saw one of Black Widow's hands pressing her own left abdomen. Are you hurt? Locke exclaimed. Who got it? Locke didn't have this thought, he said with a scowl on his face. Although Black Widow and he are only friends with POW friends are also friends. And compared to ordinary friends, POW friends also have an extra layer of physical relationships. Ordinary friends can help when they are bullied, and POW friends naturally have more reason to do so. Are you concerned about me? Seeing that Locke's eyes were full of murderous aura, the Black Widow couldn't help but be stunned, and then a trace of mist came out of her eyes, and she was about to get wet when she looked at it. Where did you get so much nonsense from a woman? I ask you, who did it? Locke said angrily. Don't be angry, the person who hurt me has already been killed by me. Do our job, injuries are a common thing. But this time it was more unlucky. The man used a very strange poison. This poison will break out every once in a while, and then it will prevent my wounds from healing, and there is no antidote in the world so far, so my time is running out. Black Widow said with a sad look. Poisoning. What poison? Locke said with an ugly face, and then gently pulled the bandage on Black Widow's body. As soon as the bandage was lifted, a rancid smell suddenly wafted out. Then Locke saw a huge black spot on the left side of Black Widow's abdomen, and in the middle of the black spot was a bloody wound. The wound was the size of a fist, and at the moment, some black pus continued to flow out, which was very shocking to watch. And that very pungent rancid smell is emitted by these pus. This is. Looking at this horrific wound, Locke looked shocked. I don't know what kind of poison that guy used, and after being injured by him, I was basically unconscious except for the severe pain at the beginning. On the contrary, the black spots are constantly spreading, and the place where the black spots spread will be extremely painful, but it will not take long to slowly become numb, and finally completely lose consciousness, feeling like the part has died, becoming dead meat. Black Widow gritted her teeth and said, obviously the poison was attacking again, and the place where the black spot was spreading was in severe pain. Turned into dead meat. Locke looked stunned. Well, at this rate, in less than 3 days, this poison will spread to my whole body, and this is still because of my special physique. If I am an ordinary person, my whole body will fester and die in less than half a day. Although I will spread for a little longer, that day will eventually come, and I don't want to see you when my whole body is festering, so I rushed to you as soon as I came back. tonight is our last night together, you have to take good care of me. Black Widow forced a smile. Who wants to take good pity on you? If you die in my bed, then others will think that I will die. Locke took a sip, not having a good airway. Quote, quote. Black Widow. Before Black Widow could feel disappointed and heartbroken by Locke's words, she heard Locke speak again. Besides, who said you would die? Quote. Won't die. Black Widow looked stunned. With me, whoever dares to let my woman die, I will kill him immediately. Locke clenched his fists and said murderously. Your woman? Me? Black Widow asked a little incredulously. Forget it, you better be my pal friend. If you really want to be my woman, I'm afraid of a grassland above my head. Locke thought about it, and immediately wanted to take back what he had said. But at this moment, Black Widow had already endured the pain and put on Locke, and then kissed him, directly blocking his mouth. What Locke was about to say turned into a strange whining sound. After a long time, Black Widow reluctantly separated from Locke, and then said with a smile, Don't think about regretting what you said, anyway, I am your woman now, even if it is just tonight. Come on, hurt me one last time. Quote. Who wants to hurt you now? I just want to hurt, then I have to hurt a healthy you. It's not that you don't know how powerful I am, with your current body, I can't let you fall apart. Locke said angrily. Healthy me. This is afraid that it is impossible. Nick found me the best biomedical experts and said that there was no way. Black Widow's face showed a rare look of despair. Although she is an extremely good agent and can handle any danger calmly, if she is not afraid of death, this is definitely false. No matter how awesome the character, there will be fear in the face of death. It's just that some people can quickly suppress it, while others will collapse on the spot, and it is clear that she is the former. They said no way. I didn't say no way. Stop talking nonsense, lie down and I'll do the rest. Locke said as he carried Black Widow to the bed in the bedroom and laid her flat. Then his consciousness moved, and he called out the butler of the infinite upgrade system. Are you sure this is a zombie virus from the apocalyptic world? Locke asked with a solemn face. The reason why he asked this was because just as Black Widow's wound was exposed, the cold voice of the system immediately sounded in his mind. This voice told him that the poison in Black Widow did not come from this world, but from another dimensional world, a doomsday world full of various zombies. And this virus is the zombie virus that can easily infect any creature and cause it to become a zombie, referred to as the G virus. In fact, Black Widow is wrong. In a week she will not die, but will become a disgusting zombie who can only eat gluttony, which is more painful and terrifying than direct death. Yes, 100% convinced. The IC system voice sounded. So there is salvation, right? Locke asked. Of course, as long as you get the antidote, you can naturally kill this virus. The IC system voice responded. You're not talking nonsense. If I have an antidote, I need you. You're kidding me, Locke said speechlessly. He felt that the system butler was not on the same channel as him at all. Or you can upgrade a bottle of antidote to the level of blue LV5, which can also disarm this enhanced zombie virus. As if hearing the dissatisfaction in Locke's heart, the system continued to give a plan. Upgrade to blue level 55.5. That would cost at least hundreds of thousands of praise points. How is this possible? Locke said with a shocked look. Not to mention that he now has more than 20,000 amazed likes left, even if he didn't gather hundreds of thousands of amazed likes at his peak. It is clear that this road will not work at all in a short time. Wait, how could Black Widow be poisoned from another dimension? Could it be that the mission she performed during this time was related to the super-dimensional divine bead fragment? It must be, and only in this way can it be explained. Someone must have obtained the super-dimensional god bead fragment again, and also mastered the use of that fragment, so that it could affect this metaverse world. Locke's mind was racing and he immediately thought of this possibility. Then, he looked at Black Widow with a solemn expression. What mission did you go on? And which organization actually injured you? Do you know this? Remember, you must tell me 15010, or I won't be able to save you. Quote. Seeing that Locke's face was very rare and serious, Black Widow knew that Locke was not joking with her. He might really be able to save himself, so she didn't bother to care about what was not secret. Therefore, he told Locke the details of the mission in these days. Black Widow's mission was not much different from what Locke had guessed, and it was really because Captain America was discovered in the extreme cold, and she was responsible for transporting it back to New York. The difficulty of this task was not high at all, and for the woman Black Widow, it was as simple as drinking water. But it was such a simple task, but an accident happened in the middle. Another force even set its sights on Captain America, and planned to snatch it away, and finally Black Widow resisted desperately, which shattered the enemy's conspiracy. However, she herself was also injured by the people of that force, resulting in the current tragic situation. In other words, you don't know which force the other party belongs to until now. Locke's face was a little solemn. No, I still know a little, although the person who injured me at that time looked like a monster, not afraid of knives and bullets, but in the end, before I blew it up with a bomb, I still saw a Hydra mark from the monster that was not very obvious. Black Widow recalled seriously. Hydra mark, the other party is Hydra's person. Quote. Well, 8 or 9 is not far from 10. After all, Captain America is Hydra's fierce enemy for many years. Once Captain America is reawakened, then the Hydra organization is equivalent to one more big enemy. This is definitely a situation they don't want to appear, so it is very reasonable to strangle it in the cradle one step in advance. Black Widow analyzed seriously. But then she showed a hint of doubt on her face and said, although Hydra's purpose is reasonable, why the other party can know my actions, I have not understood this until now. Those guys appeared so suddenly, it was like, it seems that I know my whereabouts one step in advance, which is really suspicious. Quote. Do you suspect that someone has leaked information about your actions? Locke said calmly. This seemed normal to Locke, and he was not surprised to know that a considerable number of Hydra agents could be infiltrated in S.H.I.E.L.D, and Black Widow's operational information was leaked. Well, although those people are all as hateful as monsters, I always feel that a few people look quite familiar, as if they have seen it somewhere. Black Widow nodded. All these people were killed by you. Are there any other injured people? Locke asked curiously. Because listening to Black Widow's words, these people who robbed the captain of the United States became monsters, which means that they must all be infected with the G virus, and you must know that this thing is not easy to kill, and the transmission speed is first class. If one doesn't handle it well, this matter will be a big deal, and he doesn't want the entire Marvel world to become a zombie-like apocalypse by then. Well, these disgusting monsters are very difficult to kill, only by bursting their heads. This is a weakness that I found after fighting them for quite a long time, and the other members were also injured, but their physique was not as good as mine, and they festered and died not long after being poisoned, and the body was finally recovered by S.H.I.E.L.D. Black Widow said seriously. Retracted by S.H.I.E.L.D. That is, you didn't kill it with a headshot on the spot. Locke's face changed slightly. Headshot kill. They are all my teammates, and they have unfortunately died. How can I destroy their bodies? Black Widow didn't understand what Locke meant. If I guessed correctly, I'm afraid that your shield has become a mess of porridge now. Locke sighed and said lightly. Why? Black Widow asked with a stunned look. But before Locke could answer her, the communicator located at her arm lit up, and then Nick Fury's figure appeared. Natasha, go back to S.H.I.E.L.D, something happened. After saying that, I saw Nick Fury pick up the pistol with a fierce face, as if he was going to kill something, and then the image disappeared instantly. What the hell happened? Black Widow looked at Locke in horror. Judging from Locke's calm and his remarks just now, the other party is afraid that he has already had the secret of this. It's too late to explain this. Take me to S.H.I.E.L.D first. I will find an antidote for you as soon as possible for the poison on your body. You don't have to worry. Locke immediately said with a serious expression. You're going to S.H.I.E.L.D too. Black Widow thought that Locke and Nick Fury would never cooperate with them again after falling out, but she did not expect that at this moment, the other party took the initiative to ask to go, so she was naturally very surprised. This matter is not as simple as you think. If you don't handle it well, the whole world will be finished, so I can only make a heroic and fearless shot. Locke said with a look of righteousness. Che, you don't come here, I don't know you yet, you must have other secrets hidden from me, and then want to use me to take you inside S.H.I.E.L.D, right? Black Widow looked at Locke with a smile. Locke, I have to say that Black Widow, a level 8 agent, is really not a wasted name. This insight, this analytical ability, this intelligence is simply a demon. Indeed, as Black Widow said, although he does not want the Marvel world to be ravaged by the zombie virus and eventually become a doomsday world full of zombies, he went to S.H.I.E.L.D. this time not only because of this. He had more important things to do, and the most important thing for him now was naturally to collect the fragments of the super-dimensional divine bead. As far as he knew, there should also be a fragment of the super-dimensional divine bead hidden inside S.H.I.E.L.D. At this moment, which he could clearly see through the positioning map that came with the system. Before this, he had been thinking about how he could steal this fragment quietly. After all, it was the lair of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the strict guards were no joke, even he did not dare to try it rashly. But now that something like this has suddenly happened, at this moment, S.H.I.E.L.D. is afraid that it has become a pot of porridge because of the zombie virus, which is the perfect time for him to implement the plan to steal the fragments of the divine bead. In this case, how could he let go of this opportunity? But what he didn't expect was that the Black Widow in front of him guessed that he had another purpose so quickly, which really surprised him, so that he didn't know how to answer. But before he could think of how to answer, the Black Widow in front of him laughed and said, "You don't have to answer me, no matter what your purpose is, I will help you. Who told you to be my man now? Let's rebel once for you." Quote. With that, she was about to lead the way, but then her wound attacked again, causing her to clench her teeth. Seeing this, Locke immediately injected a wisp of vitality into Black Widow's body, and then wrapped that black spot. Suddenly, Black Widow didn't feel pain, so she couldn't help but look at Locke with a shocked look and said, "What did you do? How do I feel no more pain?" Quote. "You don't understand what I said. Anyway, it inhibits the spread of toxins in your body and buys you some more time, so I also have time to find the antidote." Locke shrugged and said calmly, Really, how long can I live then?" Black Widow said in disbelief. 10 days and a half month is not a problem. Well, don't waste time, hurry up and lead the way." Locke picked up the Black Widow, and then jumped out and sat on the black technology motorcycle. After Locke finished speaking, he started his motorcycle and set off. The black technology motorcycle is like a wind on the highway, and the motorcycle has an automatic navigation system, so there is no need for Black Widow to guide the way. Sitting behind Locke, hugging Locke's tiger body tightly, Black Widow felt an unprecedented sense of security. Although she is a famous super agent, she is also a woman. What woman does not want to be spoiled like a flower by the man she likes? It wasn't that she hadn't looked for a man before, but it felt far worse than Locke. She couldn't say anything worse, but she just wasn't comfortable with Locke. She likes to stay by this little man's side, very relaxed, and that relaxation is not the kind of relaxation she joked with Locke, it is very simple, spiritual release. It was as if there was some magic in Locke's body, constantly attracting her, making her quiet and happy. It is precisely because of this that she will drug Locke regardless of the image, and then strengthen him. After living for so many years, the man who can make her take the initiative to be strong, Locke can be described as the first, and I don't know if it is because of that relationship, she finds that she is more and more inseparable from Locke. Just like this time, he was so seriously injured, the first person he wanted to see turned out to be this stinky boy who had not known him for a long time. Lying on Locke's back, Black Widow actually laughed when she thought of this with her eyes closed. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D. At this moment, gunfire was already filled, and one security door after another quickly descended, locking up the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who had been infected with the zombie virus. Looking at the security door that kept descending, some agents who were not yet infected looked extremely frightened and panicked, and then screamed madly against the door. And the screams did not last long, then completely quieted down and turned into whining screams. Standing in front of the huge video screen monitoring screen, Nick Fury and the other agents changed their faces in unison, and there was horror in their eyes. What the hell is going on here? How did these monsters appear? Nick Fury roared angrily. Director, these are the corpses of our colleagues brought back, and the members of the medical team were planning to perform an autopsy on these dead people, but they suddenly came to life, and then bit the medical staff, and then the bitten people also began to mutate, and the entire medical team was out of order. A middle-aged man in a medical uniform said with a look of horror. As the head of the medical team, do you know the cause of these monsters? Nick Fury looked at the middle-aged man and asked. The specific cause is not very clear, but it is directly related to the strange virus they are infected. By the way, Natasha said before that if you want to kill these guys, you must explode their heads. The middle-aged man seemed to suddenly remember. Then what are you waiting for? Destroy all these monsters for me. By the way, Natasha also has this poison on her body, why hasn't she changed? Nick Fury wondered. Her body is special, and her metabolic ability is several times that of ordinary people, so she can last longer, but if she does not find an antidote, she is afraid that she will also become a disgusting monster, and her strength will be stronger. The man explained. This thing must be all blocked here, and it must not be allowed to show a little, otherwise the whole world will have to be chaotic. I have contacted the world's top biomedical experts, you guys hurry up and develop an antidote for me. Nick Fury said with a gloomy face. Chief, Natasha has already been infected, and the antidote cannot be developed so quickly. Then at this time, Coulson went up and said with a worried look. Hearing this, Nick's face showed a complicated expression, and then he sighed and said, sooner or later there will be sacrifices in our business. When Natasha comes back and locks her up, if she can last until the day the antidote is developed, it is best, if not, we can't do anything. Quote. I see. Coulson nodded with a heavy look and said nothing more. And at this time, Black Widow had already appeared at the door of S.H.I.E.L.D. with a masked Locke. Where are you going? I'll take you. Black Widow asked as she led Locke towards the gate of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm going to the bottom of S.H.I.E.L.D. Locke had used his chi sense to detect that the fragment of the super-dimensional divine bead was in the lowest secret room of this S.H.I.E.L.D. base. There are many mechanisms in that secret room, and it is simply difficult to take things out silently from here. But at this moment, Locke relied on his sense of chi but found that a man was sneakily groping for something there, and judging by the signs on this guy, this should be an insider of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the official position should not be small, otherwise he would not have been able to get there at all. Quick, it's time to speed up, there's a guy already inside, someone wants to take advantage of the chaos of S.H.I.E.L.D. to fish in troubled waters. Locke reminded. How do you know? Black Widow looked at Locke in amazement. She couldn't understand how Mega Man was still outside S.H.I.E.L.D., how could she know the situation of this lowest secret room? Too late to explain, quickly lead the way. Locke urged. Okay, but at my level, I can only reach the penultimate layer, and the bottom 2 floors are the core secret bases of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it is impossible for outsiders to set foot except for the director and officials at the level of the director and above, so is it possible for you to be mistaken? Black Widow said as she turned on an elevator and walked in quickly. Is it a mistake? You will naturally know later. Let's go to the penultimate layer first, and I will deal with the rest myself. Locke said calmly. However, just when the elevator was about to descend, it suddenly stopped. Then, a group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents walked towards them. Natasha, you are infected with an unknown virus. For the sake of safety, the chief asked you to come with us. Hearing this, Black Widow's face couldn't help but look embarrassed, and then she laughed at herself. Little man, don't wait for it, I will believe your words now, you go down first, here I will bear it for you. Quote. With that, Black Widow secretly handed a card to Locke, and she sneered and walked out of the elevator. Be careful yourself. Locke did not hesitate. His big foot stepped sharply, and suddenly the chassis of the entire elevator shattered, and he fell sharply along the elevator passage. The base of S.H.I.E.L.D. extends hundreds of meters underground, and trying to reach the bottom from the outside world is not something that can be done by elevator alone. As the elevator shaft goes all the way down, it is about the end of the 4th basement floor, and if you want to go further, you must take another elevator. In this way, there is an elevator every few floors, and all the passages are filled with probes, and once someone sneaks in, the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. can immediately see it. But now that Locke has the pass card given to him by Black Widow, he can't go except for the last 2 floors, and the rest of the S.H.I.E.L.D. base is simply like no man's land. Coupled with the ability to take objects from the air that he had just awakened not long ago, combined with his sense of chi, he pinched these probes in minutes. So from beginning to end, no one has seen his true face, and for safety, he has completely turned himself into another person by relying on the ability to change clothes. A person with an Eastern face, and the appearance of this person was conjured up by Locke according to the appearance of his previous life. Therefore, even if he is unfortunately photographed by a probe, the people of S.H.I.E.L.D. will not be able to recognize who he is. After making a perfect plan, Locke took Black Widow's pass and went all the way down. Once he encounters someone from S.H.I.E.L.D., he doesn't even need to show his face, and directly relies on his invisible big hand to stun him. In this way, it only took less than 3 minutes for him to appear on the penultimate floor of the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. Standing at the intersection from the penultimate floor to the next level, Locke's face changed in vain, because by his sense of chi he felt a large group of people rushing towards him. No, it's more accurate to say that a group of zombies surrounded him. Nick Fury didn't want the zombie virus to spread to the outside world, so in desperation, he could only drive S.H.I.E.L.D. members infected with the zombie virus underground like a duck. On each floor, he lowered the heavy security door to intercept some of the zombies, and then began to clean up the fire. I have to say that this method is indeed extremely efficient, and in just a few minutes, S.H.I.E.L.D. has eliminated most of the zombies. Now that they have reached the level where Locke is, there are only dozens left. But for him, zombies are not a problem. The problem is the members of Aegis who came down with the zombies, among which Nick Fury is also listed, in addition to a tall and strong man watching in amazement. This man is none other than Captain M.I. who has just woken up. It seems that it is impossible to sneak in quietly. Since this is the case, it can only be violently robbed, anyway, as long as I am not discovered by others. Locke thought to himself, and then clenched his fists tightly, and fiercely shot towards the steel giant door in front of him. The defense of S.H.I.E.L.D. bases is extremely strong. Most of the walls are covered with heavy steel plates, and the further down, the thicker the steel plates, to the bottom 2 down 3 layers, it is simply a copper wall and iron wall, not to mention people. Even a fly is extremely difficult to fly in. At this moment, the steel gate in front of Locke was half a meter thick, and such a thick iron gate could not even penetrate Locke's special piercing steel pistol. The point is that this is the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and Nick Fury has already rushed towards him. Once he uses that pistol, then the cover he did before is completely meaningless. That is equivalent to directly telling Nick Fury that Lao Su is not someone else. Lao Su is Locke who took your special pistol. So all the weapons he got from Nick, he can't use at the moment. He didn't want to expose his identity and affect his normal life in the future. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. was also monitoring him from time to time, at least it did not directly interfere with his life like the Hydra organization. If the identity is exposed, according to Nick Fury's nature, it will definitely try to make it difficult for him. After all, S.H.I.E.L.D's rights in the United States are obvious to all, and it is conceivable what his life will be like at that time. So the identity must remain mysterious. Even if it is suspected by Nick Fury, it is thousands of times better than recognizing it on the spot. After all, suspicion is unsure, and he has a way to deal with things that cannot be determined. Break it for me. The vitality in Locke's body frantically condensed towards his fist. The first skill he learned was a well-documented boxing technique in ancient martial arts. And the ancient martial arts fighting art is based on the fighting secret art of the flesh, so the stronger the flesh body, the greater the power. If combined with the use of vitality, the strength is second only to his 8 wilderness and 6 combined swords. As the vitality continued to condense on the surface of the fist, Locke could hear the humming sound of chi, which was like the sound of war drums hammering. Not only that, Locke could feel a huge energy concentrated on his fist, waiting for him to release it now. So, without the slightest hesitation, Locke blasted his fist towards the steel giant door in front of him. Suddenly, the fist wind roared out, mixed with a destructive energy fluctuation that bombarded the steel gate fiercely. Boom! Suddenly, an earth-shattering sound echoed throughout the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and with that earth-shattering punch, the steel giant door in front of Locke was completely dented, and finally with a boom, it collapsed directly. Seeing this, Locke couldn't help but be overjoyed, rushed in without saying a word, and then quickly rushed towards the last layer. Such a sound immediately attracted the attention of Nick Fury, and at this moment, he had successfully reached the penultimate floor, and just happened to see Locke who blasted open the steel giant door. What kind of monster is this? He took the opportunity to break into the base and kill him for me. Looking at Locke, who disappeared in front of him, Nick Fury's mouth was crooked. So, he took a machine gun and shot madly at the zombies in front of him, and under the powerful power of the machine gun, those zombies were exploded in their heads, and finally fell down together. After killing the few remaining zombies, Nick Fury led a team of centaurs to quickly chase Locke. Nick, where the hell is this? And who is that guy? At this time, the captain of the United States on the side asked in surprise. This is the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. As for the monster just now, it should have been made by the Hydra organization," Nick Fury said while quickly catching up. Hydra. As soon as he heard the words Hydra, the killing intent appeared in the eyes of the Captain of the United States, and then he directly surpassed Nick Fury and chased Locke first. This evil organization like Hydra must be completely eliminated, the Captain of the United States shouted angrily, and then his figure was as strong as a cheetah, and he rushed towards Locke at a speed unimaginable to ordinary people. At this moment, Locke was standing at the entrance from the penultimate floor to the lowest floor, where there was still a heavy steel gate, and without hesitation, his fist once again struck fiercely. Suddenly, a powerful force burst out in an instant, and the steel gate unsurprisingly collapsed. At the moment when the gate fell, the man who had already sneaked inside was obviously startled. At this moment, he had just lifted the protective shield containing the fragment of the super-dimensional divine bead, and he wanted to use tweezers to slowly clamp this fragment into the box in his hand. But this Locke's sudden appearance obviously disrupted his rhythm, and he didn't even care about clamping it with tweezers, but panicked and picked up the fragment directly with his hand, and then planned to put it in the prepared box, and then run away. But what he didn't expect at all was that as soon as this fragment touched his hand, it was like being attracted by a magnet, and he couldn't shake it off. Not only that, but at this time, a sharp pain like burning appeared in the palm of his hand, so he howled while raising his hand to take a look. Suddenly, he was shocked to find that the crystal fragment that was only the size of peanut rice actually lit up with green light at this moment, and then broke his palm, and then burrowed into the flesh and blood of his palm, so it looked as if his palm had an extra green eye. And at the moment when this crystal drilled into the man's palm, the man's eyes began to roll constantly, and then the body quickly twisted and changed. Just in an instant, a normal human turned into a huge monster. This monster is about 3 meters tall, with different arms. One is covered with nails like a sharp blade, looking like the claws of a demon beast, and the other is simply turned into a scythe. The blood and flesh on the monster's body rotted together, and there was a stench that was so strong that it was disgusting, and it was unbearable to look at it directly, saying that it was the scene of the car accident that could be regarded as lifting his image. "What's going on?" Locke muttered with a solemn face. No wonder Locke would say this. The monster that appeared in front of him at this moment really looked like a tyrant in Resident Evil, and if it was only a tyrant in Resident Evil, it would definitely be more than enough to deal with his current strength. But in fact, it was not so simple, and the moment this monster appeared, the cold voice of the system sounded in his mind. "Host, please be careful. This super-dimensional divine bead fragment has the super zombie virus ability. That is not an ordinary zombie, it is the ultimate zombie form in the zombie world, far more powerful than the zombie tyrant. In the zombie world is like a god-like existence. There is an extreme zombie virus on his body, and he can easily infect and touch things, and he is a well-deserved king of viruses." It was precisely because of this ability that the system was included in the system. Quote, "Ultimate zombie, zombie god, virus king." One by one, the well-known names can't help but make Locke confused for a while. Just such a disgusting thing turned out to be so awesome. Wait, super zombie virus. That is to say, the zombie virus in Black Widow's body came from this super-dimensional divine bead fragment. That doesn't make sense. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. is studying it, it stands to reason that Nick should not be without an antidote. Or is this someone secretly researching, and even Nick Fury, the old brine, doesn't know? Locke's brain was racing to analyze, and he immediately guessed the possibilities. And before Locke could analyze for too long, the monster's gaze suddenly looked at Locke, and then the corners of his mouth actually pulled up a range, and there was a majestic killing intent in his eyes, as if Locke was some kind of enemy. Seeing this, Locke couldn't help but be even more shocked. You must know that ordinary zombies have no intelligence, some are just crazy devouring desire and killing, but this guy in front of him is obviously rational, and he looks not low. But while Locke was still surprised, a disc flew rapidly from a distance, which could not help but surprise him. He subconsciously turned around and grabbed it, and immediately grabbed a pot lid with the flag of the United States in his hand. Captain America. Locke was stunned, and then a tall figure rushed towards him. Who could it be if it was not the Captain of the United States? The remnants of Hydra are about to die. The Captain of the United States roared and punched Locke fiercely. Seeing this, Locke's eyes froze, and a hand quickly stretched out, and he easily clenched the fist punched by the Captain of the United States. Impressively, the strong captain of the United States Steve Rogers stopped in midair. Suddenly, from Steve Rogers' amaze value is plus 399 inches. Don't get in the way of Lao Su, or I'll kill you. Locke relied on the voice-changing function of the mask to turn his voice into an extremely hoarse appearance, which would be impossible for another person to hear. With that, he flicked his big hand, easily threw it out, and then smashed it on the hard iron wall. Then he threw the round shield with his other hand, and under the powerful force, he easily blasted a big hole in the iron wall not far away. Looking at such a scene, Roger's eyes couldn't help but show extreme shock. And at this time, Nick Fury had also followed. Looking at such a picture, Nick Fury was also quite shocked. Plus 254 praise from Nick Fury. Threats are useless to me. In the face of Locke's threat, Rogers did not pay attention at all. He quickly climbed up and jumped to the position of the shield, and then picked up the shield. Then, instead of leaving, he continued to rush towards Locke with an extremely heroic posture. In Rogers' view, you have to fight bravely and fearlessly in the face of the enemy. Even if the enemy is stronger than yourself, you must not back down. Worthy of being the captain of the United States, your fighting spirit is indeed admirable, but in my eyes it is looking for death. Facing the fierce Rogers, Locke's face was very ugly. With that, he threw a punch at the captain of the United States, and in the face of Locke's powerful punch, Rogers did not hard connect, but took the shield in his hand and pushed it over. Suddenly, Locke's fist and the shield came into close contact, and the expected scene of the American captain being bombarded did not appear. Because of the particularity of the American captain's shield, Rogers actually resisted hard. Although Locke had known that the shield of the American captain was extremely peculiar and could absorb kinetic energy, when he experienced it himself, he was still shocked. You must know that he is now 100 tons of power with one fist. Even if he does not do his best at the moment, it is tens of tons of power. Under such strength, he was actually caught by Captain America, who only had the peak physical strength of humans. It can be seen that this shield does have its extraordinary magic. After blocking Locke's fist, the American captain immediately showed his extraordinary fighting skills. He opened his shield horizontally, and then swung his fist towards Locke's facade. But I have to say that the captain of the United States underestimates Locke. His fighting skills are indeed extraordinary, but Locke is not inferior to him at all, not only not worse than him, but stronger. You must know that Locke has learned the art of ancient martial arts, and in this world when it comes to fighting skills, he said that no one dares to say the first. So the seemingly unexpected fist of the captain of the United States was a joke in Locke's eyes. He easily avoided the attack of the American team with only a slight side, and then he raised his foot and kicked the American team out. Being so struck, the American team was furious, continued to stand up, and then said while wiping the blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, "Come on, continue, I can fight you like this all day." Quote. Oh, it's a classic line, but you don't have the qualifications. With that, Locke rushed towards the American team. But at this moment, the extremely extreme zombie body flashed, and it appeared behind the American team at a speed that was difficult to see with the naked eye, and then a huge claw crushed the shoulder of the American team. Suddenly, sharp claws plunged directly into Rogers' flesh and blood. Ah! Rogers screamed in pain, but then the monster threw him out with a slight flick, smashing the iron wall into it. So, the American team, who was still saying that he would fight with Locke all day, fainted like this. Locke, they all said not to hinder Lao Su, you don't listen, and now you deserve to end up so miserable. Locke thought depressedly. Seeing that the American team was easily stunned by the monster, Nick Fury and his party of S.H.I.E.L.D. woke up. It seems that there is not only Locke an interloper but also a monster. Thinking of this, Nick Fury immediately ordered, "Fire immediately and sweep away these two intruders." Quote. Suddenly, one energy wave after another struck towards Locke and the zombie monster, which turned out to be a weapon made by the Hydra organization, and before he had time to figure out what was going on, Locke quickly avoided the attack of these energy waves. But for S.H.I.E.L.D's crazy sweep, the monster didn't seem to put it in its eyes at all, and instead of hiding, it even attacked Locke. I don't know if it was because he sensed that Locke's body also had fragments of the super-dimensional divine bead, and this monster actually wanted to kill Locke. Originally, it was more than enough to avoid those energy waves with Locke's skills, but now that this zombie was making trouble, he was immediately hit by an energy wave, but now his clothes had the attribute of devouring fusion energy. So that energy wave just blasted him backwards a little, and the rest of the energy was actually absorbed by the clothes on his body, so it was like giving him an itch. Seeing this, Locke couldn't help but secretly rejoice, so that he didn't have to worry about these energy waves being able to hurt him. In this way, he can deal with the extreme zombie in front of him wholeheartedly. Looking at the zombie monster that rushed towards him, Locke did not retreat, and then clenched his fist and fiercely blasted towards the zombie. His punch used all his strength, thinking of a quick victory. Kill the monster in front of him, he has to get out of this place quickly. But what he didn't expect was that watching him punch, the tall zombie actually laughed and punched him as well. Suddenly, the two fists collided together, and suddenly the wind roared out, and an incomparable shock wave erupted from their fists. Then this shock wave spread out in all directions at an unimaginable speed, and this place was a nearly confined space with copper walls and iron walls, so the power of this shock wave was even more powerful. Suddenly, a group of people from S.H.I.E.L.D. flew out in unison, and some people who were not strong enough were directly stunned by this shock wave. How is it possible? Are these two guys monsters? Nick Fury was also shocked out, but his physique was special, but there was no big problem. But this scene still scared him a lot, and he had seen such a powerful battle very rarely. It wasn't just Nick Fury who was shocked, this time even Locke was stunned. How powerful his punch is, he knows best, it is 100-ton power. One punch shocked the earth, destroying the decay. But now the zombie monster in front of him was able to fight with him firmly. Not only that, not only did he not bombard this zombie, but he himself was shocked a little faintly retreated. Such a strong force, it is worthy of being the ultimate zombie in the Doomsday world, this strength is enough. Locke gritted his teeth and immediately took a step back, and then, as if he did not believe in evil, he unexpectedly blasted out his fists continuously. In the face of Locke's stormy fist, the zombie monster did not fall behind in the slightest, and also kept punching towards Locke. Boom, boom. The sound of huge collisions continued to sound like artillery in this secret room, and under the bombardment of the shock wave, the copper walls and iron walls began to sink continuously, which looked very terrifying. As for those people from S.H.I.E.L.D., they fled to the upper echelons in a hurry, because once they escaped slowly, they would die. Ha ha ha, cool, cool. Since I grew up to this point, I have not had a happy fight. I thought that I could only fight if I met green fat, but I didn't expect that this wish came true one step ahead. You were very good, very good. After a quick and lightning exchange, Locke was not only surprised, but also full of refreshment. And for Locke's performance, the eyes of the extreme zombie also appeared surprised. It seemed that he did not expect that Locke, a human being, could match him in strength. Suddenly, he couldn't help but become angry, and then roared, and his body actually grew a little again. And just when Locke was surprised by this, his fist smashed fiercely again, and Locke subconsciously took it, but then he was shocked to find that the power of the zombie suddenly surpassed him. As a result, he was immediately blasted out like a cannonball, and then smashed a heavy iron wall down. Chapter 91. This guy didn't use his full strength just now, is this defiant of me? Locke quickly rolled over from the ruins, and then said with a rather ugly face. Although he was sent flying, his physique and the defensive power of this suit on his body made him not hurt anything. However, on the surface, he was not injured, but the pride in his heart was hit a lot, and he was worthy of being the ultimate zombie, and this strength was really not covered. Seeing that Locke was punched out by himself, a sneering expression appeared on the zombie monster's face, and he seemed to be very proud. In this way, Locke's teeth itched naturally, so he did not stop at all, and as soon as he stood up, he continued to rush towards the zombie monster. You have a lot of strength, don't you? Then I will try this punch. Locke roared. Then he clenched his fist and immediately activated the glove's telescopic ability. Suddenly, a huge invisible fist appeared in front of him, and then he raised his fist and shot towards the zombie monster through the air. Seeing this, the zombie monster looked at Locke inexplicably, not knowing what he was doing at all, and then a mocking smile appeared on his face, as if he felt that Locke was beaten stupid. But before his smile lasted long, his whole body was solidly hit by Locke's invisible fist. Suddenly, He flew straight out like a kite with a broken line, and then smashed through an iron wall just like Locke had just encountered. But unlike Locke, after he smashed through a wall, he did not stop there, but was restrained by Locke's invisible fist with it, and then Locke angrily threw it to the upper floor. In this way, Locke was still not satisfied. His figure continued to follow, relying on the invisible big hand to grab the zombie monster, and then constantly smashed it to the upper level. The penultimate layer, the penultimate layer, the penultimate layer. All the way up, without pause. Locke seemed to have incarnated as a god of war at this moment, and the attack power, the destructive power, was simply strong. This move was thought of by Locke not long ago, because he found that when he used the ability of the invisible big hand, the greater the change of the invisible big hand, the more power he could exert would also increase. It felt like a lever, so when he cast his invisible big hand, the power he could exert was not just 100 tons, it was a multiplication of skyrocketing. In this way, how could this zombie monster in front of him resist his power? Looking at the collapsed base layer after layer, Nick Fury's face was ashen. He thought that the battle just now was already amazing, but now the scene once again refreshed his cognition. Not only refreshed his cognition, everyone's understanding has been refreshed. This level of battle is completely immortal fighting. Mortals suffer. Locke and the zombie are immortals, and they are naturally the mortals who suffered. Looking at the incredible scene in front of him, suddenly paragraph after paragraph of text flew in front of Locke's eyes. +899 praise from Nick Fury. +1000 praise from Coulson. The amazed value from Natasha is +999. At this moment, all the people near the S.H.I.E.L.D. base contributed a good amount of praise to Locke. In just a few moments, Locke had accumulated a total of more than 200,000 astonishment points. Such gains can be described as his all-time high. From the lowest basement level, all the way to the surface. Although this zombie monster is the ultimate zombie in the Doomsday world, under such a powerful attack, it can't help but be stunned. Although his body was originally full of carrion, it was still difficult to hide the newly caused injuries at this moment, which were far more terrifying injuries than carrion. Locke temporarily ignored his soaring praise, but continued to grab it fiercely with his big hand, and tore off one of the zombie monster's arms abruptly. There was a crystal emitting green light in the palm of that arm, and if this crystal looked at it from the surface, it was impossible to tell that it was a fragment of the super-dimensional divine bead. Even Locke at the moment was a little unsure. But fortunately, there was a system steward, and he immediately explained to Locke. The original color of the super-dimensional divine bead is indeed colorful, but it will also evolve different colors because of the ability it carries, especially when someone uses the ability in the divine bead fragment. This situation is more likely to appear, such as the zombie monster at this moment. After tearing off the zombie's arm, Locke immediately removed the super-dimensional divine bead by relying on the ability to take things from the air, and then controlled it to fly quickly to the palm of his hand. As soon as this divine bead fragment fell into the palm of his hand, it immediately turned into a colorful appearance, and then turned into a pool of colorful liquid like the previous fragment and drilled into Locke's body. At the same time, the originally extremely ferocious zombie monster immediately changed in shape and changed back into the appearance of a middle-aged man. But his own arm was literally ripped off. Seeing this man, Nick Fury was surprised. "Sitwell, how could it be you?" Quote. Seeing his actions exposed, the agent called Sitwell endured the severe pain and began to flee quickly. He was an undercover member of S.H.I.E.L.D., and now his identity was exposed that he was certain to die, so he naturally wanted to escape. Seeing this, Nick Fury immediately raised the pistol, and then shot the guy in the calf, and immediately Sitwell fell to the ground and wailed. On the other side, Locke, who fused the fragments of the super-dimensional divine bead, set his sights on the system. Fusion of the super-dimensional god bead fragment, the system energy is replenished to 20%, and the synthesis and disarming technology of the super zombie virus carried in the fragment will appear in the system mall in the form of goods. Please know the host. 20%, 7% increase in energy at once. It is worthy of being a fragment the size of peanut rice, and this energy is really not covered. Looking at the words in front of him, Locke couldn't help but secretly rejoice. Hurry up and enter the system mall and get the antidote out. Locke thought silently, and then his consciousness sank and entered the system mall. Zombie virus antidote 1000 points of surprise value. Virus stripping destruction device 30,000 points of surprise value. As soon as he entered the system mall, Locke saw several products about viruses, and these two of them particularly attracted Locke's attention, especially the virus stripping and destroying device. After reading the introduction, Locke felt that this was simply an artifact. Because once he has this device, he can directly deprive and destroy most of the known viruses, including the super zombie virus of the apocalyptic world. Although the price is a little more expensive, but the victory is once and for all. Once I have this device, what poison will I not be able to solve at that time? Locke thought excitedly. Because of the earth-shattering battle with the zombie monster just now, he suddenly gained more than 200,000 praise points, plus the remaining 20,000 before, and his body now accumulated a total of almost 230,000 praise points. This has to be said to be a huge amount of money, at least for him now. So it's really good to spend 30,000 likes on a device that can strip and destroy viruses, and it's simply not too cost-effective. He naturally won't miss such a good thing, plus now that Black Widow is still waiting for him to save his life, he has no reason not to buy it. As soon as his consciousness moved, he immediately chose to buy. Suddenly, something like a ring appeared in his system backpack, and then he clicked on this ring. The virus stripping and destruction device. This device is a super bioscience technology device created by a super bioscience expert in the apocalyptic world after a lifetime of hard work, using this device to easily strip and destroy any virus that has been recorded. Do you want to use it right away? The cold voice of the system sounded. Hearing this, Locke didn't think about it, and immediately chose yes. Suddenly, a light that only Locke could see flashed, and then Locke found that there was an extra pale green emerald-like ring in the palm of his hand, and this ring looked so noble. Without much thought, he put the ring on the middle finger of his right hand. Suddenly, a rather large amount of information flooded into his mind, making him immediately know the use of this ring. So it is, the other technologies of the apocalyptic world are not much more sophisticated than the current Marvel world, but biomedical technology has reached the pinnacle, and even such super black technology things can be manufactured, which is incredible. Just after that information was poured into his mind, he immediately figured it all out. Bring the ring to the object of use. Compared to the middle finger, you can instantly peel off and destroy the virus in the opponent's body. The system says. Locke, technology is black technology, but the usage is quite skinny. It turned out to be the middle finger. Locke thought at first that he had misheard, and after confirming it repeatedly, he understood that this was true. After being speechless for a moment, he also had to accept this fact. But then again, if you want me to detoxify you, you have to let me give you a middle finger, which is simply not too fair. After figuring it out, his eyes immediately looked for Black Widow's figure in the huge shield base, but what made him feel a little shocked was that he couldn't find Black Widow's figure, as if the other party had disappeared out of thin air. It wasn't until a moment later that he spotted Black Widow in the dense forest hundreds of meters away from S.H.I.E.L.D. At this moment, Black Widow's body is full of wounds, which can be said to be scarred, and it looks miserable. But even so, she kept fleeing towards the place where she left the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, because there were more than a dozen S.H.I.E.L.D. agents rounding her up behind her. Nick Fury didn't want the zombie virus to spread, so he told his men to capture Black Widow and lock it up. That's why these agents, who were originally Black Widow's colleagues, spared no effort to hunt her down. It felt as if catching Black Widow would be able to do something. Seeing this, Locke's face became extremely gloomy, and then he jumped up and wanted to rescue Black Widow. But at this moment, a sturdy figure quickly jumped out from the bottom of the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and then struck towards him as fast as lightning. Seeing this, Locke's eyes froze, and he saw the face of that guy clearly. The figure that struck quickly turned out to be Rogers of the American team, but the current Rogers is very different from before. He was just injured by the extreme zombie, so he has been infected with the super zombie virus. At this moment, under the action of the super zombie virus, his image has changed drastically. I saw that the surface of his body grew a very strange green scale, and under these scales, there was already rotten flesh and blood, but the flesh and blood on his face did not rot like other zombies, but became like a dry corpse, looking very shriveled. His physique has also skyrocketed under the influence of the virus, but it is not as exaggerated as the previous zombie monster, and Rogers has only grown to about 2 meters. Although his height is not as tall as the previous zombie monster, the sense of oppression is not inferior to the zombie monster just now. And I don't know if it's because of Roger's super willpower and sense of justice, although he was infected with the zombie virus, he did not lose his mind. Looking into his eyes, it was so clear, which was in stark contrast to his image. Is it just a body zombie? Looking at such a look of Roger's, Locke's face was shocked. This guy's willpower is simply against the sky. The second generation is extremely zombified, because the willpower of the infected person is amazing, so it overcomes the impact of the zombie virus on reason, so that the other party only changes his body and retains his sanity. Such a state is simply a miracle. It is the coveted zombification. His strength is not weaker than that of the first generation of extreme zombies, because he retains his sanity, so he can still use his own skills, and from a certain point of view, he may be stronger than the first generation of extreme zombies. The system's icy voice analyzed. Even stronger than the first generation. Hearing this, Locke was stunned. It was really a wave of unevenness, but he didn't have time to entangle with this lost American team now, and saving Black Widow was the right thing. But at this moment, the zombified American team had already rushed towards him, and they were close at hand. Hydra members, die quickly. Rogers roared angrily. Even if he turned into a zombie, this guy did not forget to deal with Hydra. This spirit has to be said to be very admirable. However, Locke was not in the mood to fight him, only to see him grab it with his big hand, and suddenly the American team floated in the air. Then he compared his middle finger towards the American team, and seeing this, Rogers couldn't help but be stunned, thinking that Locke was deliberately provoking him, so he struggled even more frantically. But before he could struggle out of Locke's invisible big hand, a green light flew out of his body first, and then his body quickly changed back to its original form. And that green light was completely absorbed by the ring on Locke's hand, and finally disappeared without a trace. After doing this, Locke flicked it gently, and the American team was thrown back into the ruins of the base, looking quite desolate. After throwing the American team out, Locke plans to go to rescue Black Widow and leave the place completely. But at this moment, a huge blue energy wave shot towards him, and in the face of this sudden energy wave, Locke did not react at all, and stood straight in place. Suddenly, with a boom, the energy wave hit his body fiercely, but what made people feel incredible was that he didn't move. That energy wave was like hitting a sponge, like entering a quagmire, disappearing without a trace. Following the direction of the energy wave, Locke saw a stunned Nick Fury, and then he laughed disdainfully. Don't move, raise your hands. Although the shot did not cause the slightest damage to Locke, Nick Fury still roared subconsciously. Seeing that Locke was like a god, and even the energy wave guns they captured from the Hydra organization could not harm it, he was actually panicked. This roar is completely emboldened for yourself. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this time, if he is instigated, how will he lead his own agents in the future? Do you think your words have the slightest deterrent power? Locke taunted in a husky voice. With those words, his body shook violently. Suddenly, his clothes burst out all the energy that had been swallowed up just now, and suddenly a wave of energy like an ocean wave advanced in all directions. Under the powerful power of this energy wave, the earth shook, flying sand and stones, some people could not even stand steadily, and finally fell to the ground in unison. Locke, on the other hand, took the opportunity to grab Nick and threw it in the direction of Team Rogers just now. Cool, cool. As soon as he threw out Nick Fury, Locke was ecstatic in his heart. He was unhappy to see Nick Fury earlier, pit himself so many times, he couldn't treat him for various reasons before, but now it's good, it's just let him need awe. This loss can be regarded as venting his unhappiness with Nick Fury. After throwing out Nick Fury, his figure jumped up and instantly rushed into the dense forest where Black Widow was, and then under Black Widow's incredible expression, he picked him up. Then, relying on his ability to step into the air, he disappeared into the dense forest in an instant, so fast that he didn't let anyone see it. Holding Black Widow, Locke's whole person rushed through the air like a bird. He can now jump hundreds of meters in a single jump, and combined with the increase in the ability of his shoes to step into the air, he can completely fly for a short time. Looking at the clouds speeding past her, Black Widow looked excited and excited. This feeling was really refreshing. She never thought that this little man beside her had such great strength, it was like a god. Where to go now? Locke's body changes rapidly. Immediately, he changed back to his original form. Go to my secret residence, he said quickly. Under the guidance of Black Widow, Locke soon settled in a very remote village, and then the two walked into a nearby detached villa. It's worthy of being a super agent, it's just a trench, the villa cost a lot of money. As soon as he entered the room, Locke looked around curiously. Noble and atmospheric decoration, high-tech kitchen, beautiful flowers and plants in the front yard, large swimming pool in the backyard, everything is so comfortable. It's okay, isn't the money earned to be spent? Black Widow smiled, then took Locke's hand and walked in the direction of the bedroom. Would you like some beforehand drink? Black Widow said with a charming look. She surprisingly didn't mention what had just happened. She didn't seem to be curious at all about why Locke had become so strong, why he was so powerful. It's not that she's not curious, it's that she knows that as a likable woman, she knows what to ask and what not to ask. She believed that if Locke really wanted to tell her, he would tell her himself, rather than ask herself. Because if the other party doesn't want to tell themselves, then even if they ask, the other party won't say, so why bother? Might as well do something fun, like a love applause. Hearing that Black Widow opened her mouth to be such a topic, Locke couldn't help but be stunned, and then said angrily, the zombie virus in your body has not been cleared, you want to do that file thing, so you are not afraid that I will break you up. Quote. Don't be afraid, I'm comfortable if I fall apart anyway. Black Widow said with a smile. Locke, okay, don't talk nonsense with you, wait until I detoxify you. Locke said as he raised his middle finger in front of Black Widow. Seeing Locke suddenly give her middle finger, Black Widow couldn't help but be stunned, and then her mind seemed to be thinking about what Locke's gesture meant. Because according to her understanding, Locke should not mean to express the meaning that everyone knows, there must be another meaning in it. Then, she seemed to have thought of something, and then looked at Locke with a blushing face and said, you kid is so bad. Quote. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Locke, bad, where does this start? I just want to give you an antidote. But before Locke could explain, Black Widow grabbed his fingers, then took them into her mouth and put them up and down. Locke, who can stand it? Locke quickly withdrew his finger, and then dismantled the zombie virus on Black Widow. Before Black Widow could be shocked and happy about this, Locke picked her up and rushed into the spacious bedroom. Then a very seductive and high-pitched shout echoed throughout the villa. Inside the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, Nick Fury touched Zhao neck in a plaster cast, with a look of anger. Did you find the specific information about that guy? Nick Fury patted the table. Not yet, all our surveillance has been destroyed one step ahead. There is no image data of him in the whole process, not even fingerprints, he seems to have been prepared. Coulson said with an equally ugly face. Keep looking for me, I don't believe that guy didn't leave a trace. And did Natasha find it? Nick Fury continued to ask the price. No, she escaped, we may lose a level 8 agent here. Coulson smiled wryly. I think Natasha will understand my intentions, keep looking, and notify me as soon as there is news. Nick waved his hand, not in the mood at all. But at this moment, he thought of something, and a flash of essence immediately appeared in his eyes. Where did Natasha go before she came back to S.H.I.E.L.D.? Nick Fury looked at Coulson and asked very seriously. I don't know about this, but I heard from my subordinates that when they were arresting Natasha, they saw a masked man appear in our S.H.I.E.L.D. elevator. Who exactly this person is, no one has said why so far. Coulson replied. The masked man, why didn't you talk about such important information just now? Nick Fury said chagrinfully. This, after all, came out of his subordinates, and without conclusive evidence, I can't talk nonsense. Coulson was a little weak-hearted. No, I don't think you want to talk nonsense, but you want to cover up the fact that Natasha has betrayed us a long time ago. I finally figured it out. The terrible zombie virus, the masked man in black, and the Oriental man who entered the S.H.I.E.L.D. base like no man's land, all of which are inextricably linked to Natasha. Agent Coulson, don't forget your mission, even if the other person is your best friend, you can't be selfish. Nick Fury slammed the table angrily. Director, I didn't mean that, I just think that this matter is not as simple as the 417 we think, and it is not fair to Natasha to make a conclusion. Coulson said with a rare toughness. Do you have to put all the evidence in front of you so that you can believe it? I'm also very uncomfortable with Natasha's affairs, but as a qualified agent, personal feelings must be abandoned, and you must know this better than me. Nick Fury said with a sigh. Coulson wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Nick Fury waving his hand. You go out first, I want to be alone and quiet. Nick said silently. I see. Coulson glanced at Nick with a look of wanting to speak, and then strode out of the room. Not long after Coulson left, Nick Fury dragged his chin with both hands, and then said as if to himself, who the hell is this guy? How I always feel a little familiar. Quote. Located in a remote rural area in New York. After several rounds of fighting with Locke, Black Widow finally collapsed in Locke's arms after exhaustion. What exactly did you eat during this time? I don't know how many rounds CID beat Dow, it's not weak, it's still a pillar of Optimus, you will kill people like this. Black Widow hugged Locke tightly and said in surprise. Do you think I joked with you just now, saying that it will break you apart? You still don't believe it, now believe it or not. Locke slapped Natasha's buttocks hard. Ministry, said with a bad smile. Don't shoot, I'll feel it as soon as I take a pat, die, please let it go. Natasha blushed shyly, sweat all over her body. Now that I know that I am afraid, do you dare to tease me like that after seeing this? I tell you that the consequences of teasing me are very serious. Locke smiled and said, but he didn't tease her. HMPH, today I am in a bad state of injury, and when the time is changed, I will definitely let you taste my power. Black Widow straightened her chest and said very arrogantly. But before she could be arrogant for too long, Locke pressed down again, and Black Widow begged for mercy again and again. Well, don't tease you, it's not early, I have to go back, otherwise it's night, I'm afraid someone will suspect. Locke said as he got up and got dressed. Che, I see you miss your little girlfriend. Why, the old lady has not satisfied you, this is ready to go back and continue to eat the next family. Black Widow pretended to be jealous. Locke, hee, kidding you, I'm completely satisfied today, I can't feed you, you better let your little girlfriend feed you. Black Widow laughed. What are your plans after that? After getting dressed, Locke sat on the edge of the bed and looked at Black Widow very seriously. What else can I plan? I have betrayed S.H.I.E.L.D. for you, I will have nowhere to go in the future, then I must follow you secretly. Black Widow said with a sly smile. Oh, okay, as long as you don't disturb my normal life, follow as you like, but you have to be prepared, the consequences of secretly tracking me are very serious, once I find out, you may become like this at any time, and then see if you dare or not. Locke knew Black Widow was joking with him, so he didn't take it to heart. Black Widow is an extremely independent woman, he will never completely give up his life mode and attitude for a certain man, ordinary life is not suitable for her, she needs exciting things in life. So, even if she leaves S.H.I.E.L.D., she must have something else to do, there is no doubt about that. Hee, I can't ask for it, I'm afraid that you will be sucked dry by your other women by then you won't have the energy to deal with me. Black Widow smiled. Don't worry, this kind of thing will not happen to me here, from now on, you will only be ravaged by me, and you still want to suck me dry. There are no doors. Locke touched Black Widow and then planned to leave. But at this moment, Black Widow suddenly threw herself into Locke's arms from the bed, and then gave Locke a deep kiss. Smelly boy, thank you for everything you have done for me, I will always remember it, I know you have some thoughts about me as a woman, but I can guarantee that from now on I will only belong to you. This is too meaty, anyway, the meaning is you hurry up, be careful on the road. After that, Black Widow became rare shy, and then hid in the bed. Seeing the other party like this, Locke felt funny and cute, but he didn't expect that the Black Widow who has always been cold and glamorous has such a small woman's side, which is really rare. With a smile, Locke stepped out and disappeared into the night. When I got home, it was about 8 o'clock, which was not too late, and Alice didn't know if it was because she didn't come yesterday. She sneaked into Locke's house early today, and then sat on the sofa eating snacks and watching TV waiting for him. As early as hundreds of meters away, Locke saw the situation in the room through his chi sense, and he couldn't help but laugh happily. What is a good life? This is a good life. This is also the main reason why he does not want to expose his identity in front of Nick. If such a good life is disrupted because of his own negligence, how pity and chagrin. When he got home, he obediently sent him home. And he himself immediately immersed himself in the infinite system. Because he suddenly got more than 200,000 likes, he seemed to have achieved some achievement, and the system pushed him another system message. Click System Messages. Congratulations to the host for breaking through the 200,000 praise mark with his own efforts and achieving the achievement of shocking silver 2. So he rewards the host with the 789th style of 8 wilderness and 6 combined sword method, which are swift wind, thunder, and giant blade. And give a bone strengthening pill. This pill can quench the muscles and bones in the body. After taking it, the Vajra iron bone, the power is endless. It is an excellent medicine for cultivating the flesh. Quote, quenching your muscles. My current physical strength is far beyond ordinary people. I wonder if this pill has any effect after taking it. Looking at the words in front of him, Locke muttered speculation. If it doesn't work, won't it be wasted? Locke thought hesitantly. But at this moment, the cold voice of the system steward sounded. The host can rest assured, this elixir is a top medicine in a certain fantasy world. No matter how strong the physical body, it will be effective after eating. This elixir can be used superimposed, but the specific number of times it can be used superimposed is determined by the physique of the person taking it. Quote, what? Can it be stacked? Wouldn't that be infinitely more powerful? Locke exclaimed. In theory, this is true, but everyone has a limit, and once you reach the limit, it will have no effect after taking it. But the host is your first time using it, so it will definitely work. The system steward reminded. In that case, wouldn't it be a pity not to eat? Locke thought silently, and then without saying a word, he swallowed this strong bone pill into his belly. As the elixir swallowed, Locke immediately felt a burning sensation, and this fire spread through his limbs and veins to his muscles and bones. Suddenly, he seemed to hear the sound of his bones burning. The feeling was extremely painful. Locke did not expect the effect of this thing to be so amazing. One accident, he almost fainted in pain. Fortunately, when he died a painful death and felt that he was going to be unable to hold on, that feeling suddenly disappeared. Suddenly, he felt that his body was very different from before, although he couldn't see anything different from the outside, but in fact he was different. At this moment, if someone can see the muscles and bones in his body through his physical body, they will find that the bones in his whole body are like gold. The whole body is golden yellow, and it looks extremely strong and hard. Curious, Locke immediately called up his personal information. Host, Sherlock. Power, 3059. Physique, 3599, free of toxic. Agility, 3047. Wisdom, 2538. Amazing value, 206,221. Looking at his personal attributes, Locke couldn't help but be stunned. A strong bone pill, his strength, physique, and agility have skyrocketed by more than 500, which is simply a miracle medicine. It is worthy of being the top medicine in the fantasy world. This effect is overwhelming. Locke clenched his fist and waved it gently, only to feel the fist wind roaring, blowing his own clothes hunting. He was able to punch 100 tons of huge force before, but now he must have exceeded this limit, and he can definitely reach 120 tons under one punch. Although it is only 20 tons more than 100 tons, it does not seem like much, but you must know that after the strength reaches a certain level, let alone increase by 20 tons, even an extra pound can become the last straw that crushes the camel. So, it's so rare to have this kind of growth. After eating the bone pill, Locke's gaze was on a bottle of green potion in the system's backpack. It was the super soldier potion that his father had left him, and after he got it, he never looked at it again, not because he didn't care about the potion, but because he had taken an upgraded body enhancement potion before. The effect of that potion should be similar to the bottle of super soldier potion in front of him, or even better than this potion, otherwise it would be impossible to explain that he had obtained a power far beyond that of Captain America. And this bottle of potion he plans to use after continuous upgrading in the later stage, which can be regarded as the backhand he left behind. But it was not used all the time, and Locke could not suppress his curiosity, so he took it out and looked at it. Super Soldier Potion, Blue Level 55-5, can stimulate the potential of the human body after taking it, and raise the major indicators of the human body to the peak state. Because the host has already used a similar potion, the potion is temporarily ineffective against the host, unless the host raises the potion level above the previous potion level. Quote, sure enough, but it doesn't matter. Now my strength is temporarily enough. This bottle of potion will be kept and slowly upgraded. At least it must be upgraded to the purple level before taking it, otherwise it will be a pity. Locke thought about it and threw it back into the system backpack. Then his gaze moved to the non-alloy mask, and most of his current equipment had been upgraded to the blue level. In addition to the mask and the special steel pistol at the moment, there are now exactly more than 200,000 points of admiration, and he plans to spend some of it on these two things. Nano alloy mask, white grade 55-6, defense 90, upgrade to white LV7. Upgrades cost 7,000 likes, plus 50% defense after upgrading. Quote. Upgrade. Locke immediately chose yes. Suddenly, after spending 54,000 praises, his mask also reached the level of blue LV0 like several other pieces of equipment. Nano alloy mask, blue grade 55-0, defense power 1150, with self-cleaning function, shape change function, voice changer function, unlimited oxygen function, energy devouring fusion ability. The voice changer allows the host to use any type of sound at will, with a cooldown of 30 minutes. Unlimited oxygen function. This ability can make unlimited oxygen for the host to use, so that the host can easily go to the world and the sea, omnipotent. The energy devouring fusion attribute is +1, which can swallow all kinds of energy, and the devouring fusion speed is 200,000 joules s. And the host can release the absorbed energy in the form of energy waves at any time. Quote. Unlimited oxygen. This ability is awesome. Even if you go to outer space in the future, you don't have to worry. Locke was secretly pleasantly surprised. After upgrading the mask, he also upgraded the special steel pistol to the level of blue LV0. NB666 special steel piercing pistol, blue level 55-0, penetration 1230, capable of piercing 1 meter thick steel plate, and awakening automatic reload function and bullet tracking function. Auto reload function. As long as there are bullets on the host, regardless of any type, the system will automatically convert into the corresponding bullets and automatically reload. Bullet tracking function. The host can control the bullet through consciousness to track and shoot. The effective range is 1,000 meters. Quote. After upgrading the two pieces of equipment, Locke still has 100,000 surprise points left. Then, he spent another 20,000 amazement points to exchange 2 attribute points, and then added all of them to the thunder and lightning attribute of the Zontai Miao Dao. As a result, Miao Dao's original lightning attribute +2 was increased to +4. In this way, the lightning gem on the seedling knife absorbed the vitality faster, and then the efficiency of converting the vitality into the power of thunder and lightning was also faster. With all this done, Locke was satisfied. Now he still has a total of 80,000 amazing likes left on his body, which is a good deposit, and he hasn't thought of how to use it for the time being, so he keeps it first. Time is constantly passing, and the good life continues. Since the S.H.I.E.L.D incident, Nick Fury still seems to have a little suspicion that this matter is related to Locke. In this way, in the following days, Nick also specially ran to Locke's house to meet Locke. Nick Fury's purpose is self-evident. Naturally he wants to find out what clues in Locke's body, and Locke, who is not prepared too early, will naturally not be pitted by it. Now he is an old churro. Even in the face of Nick Fury, he can easily maneuver, and can still do things without leakage. Nick, who had no choice but to go home, and also removed a group of monitors. In this way, Locke naturally enjoyed himself. These monitors were actually discovered by him a long time ago, and it was precisely because of the early discovery that he could avoid their eyes in every action, thus keeping his actions secret. Now that these people have been removed, it shows that Nick Fury has indeed diverted his attention from him, so he is naturally secretly happy. After sending off Nick Fury, the old fox, Locke's next life was even smoother. Every day in the hospital, classroom, and home at 3 o'clock in one line, 3 people and women take turns to serve. But just when Locke thought that the next days would be so relaxed, a rather unexpected phone rang. The person who called him was no one else but Lin Wanu, the Oriental woman he knew in the car dealership that Locke almost forgot. Lin Wanu's purpose for calling him was self-evident. Her hidden illness had always been on her mind, and she had indeed cultivated a secret method, as Locke said. This secret method can speed up the speed at which she absorbs yuan qi into her body, allowing her to cultivate twice as effectively with half the effort. However, this secret method was accidentally discovered by her in the library pavilion, so he never told others, and he secretly cultivated by himself. In the initial stage of cultivation, there were no problems, but it really accelerated her cultivation speed, so she went crazy to cultivate out of control, until now there were various problems in her body. What made her feel afraid was that before Locke mentioned it to her, he once thought that there was a problem with his body, and he did not doubt the secret method of his cultivation at all. Of course, she did not immediately believe Locke's words, but personally conducted experiments and stopped cultivating the secret method for a few days, and as Locke said, his body was much more comfortable. In this way, she naturally judged that Locke was not lying to her, and everything he said was a big truth. After understanding this, she couldn't wait to call Locke and think of making an appointment to meet. But what she didn't expect was that the place where Locke made an appointment with her was in his own home. To be honest, after hearing about this location, she was hesitant and refused, because it was extremely unsafe for a woman no matter what. However, thinking of the pinprick-like pain and torture she had every time she came for her menstrual holiday, she couldn't help but hesitate, and then she gritted her teeth and agreed to Locke's request. As for the cost, she didn't think so much. In her opinion, even if she can't pay the price, can that guy really eat himself? With this mentality, she came to Locke's doorstep on time. This rich second generation doesn't live in a very high-class place. I thought there was a lot of money, but it turned out to be a swollen face and fat goods. According to the address provided by Locke, Lin Wanu followed the navigation all the way to the vicinity of Locke's house. At first, she wasn't sure which one Locke's house was, but after seeing the funny pink sports car, she found Locke's home with great certainty. While saying with a little contempt, she walked towards the door of Locke's house, and then she planned to knock. But before she could knock, the door opened by itself. When did I say I'm a rich second generation? Didn't you think about it day and night, dreaming that I told you that? Locke's calm voice came from inside the room. Suddenly hearing Locke's voice, Lin Wanu was obviously startled. Suddenly, amazing value from Lin Wanu plus 134 inches. She had only experienced this kind of thing from her master without seeing him, but she did not expect that she could experience it in a man about the same age as her. How could he not be shocked? How can you hear what I say? Only then did she remember that she had just muttered a few words softly, but she didn't expect that it was just that, and it was incredible that she could be heard by Locke. How do you hear that? Listen with your ears, of course. Is it with the mouth? Locke said with a hint of rejection. Lin Wanu, the first time I came to the door, but came empty-handed, I suspect that you are a fake person. Locke closed the door with a flick of his big hand, and then he slowly walked from the bedroom to the living room. At this moment, he was just wrapped in a bathrobe, looking like he had just taken a bath. Seeing him like this, Lin Wanu suddenly cried out, and then turned his head with a red face. Why are you like this? Don't you wear clothes? Lin Wanu seemed to be very depressed, and just now, she clearly saw Locke's bulge. It was the first time she had gotten along with a man like this for the first time, which was really embarrassing. Is it weird that I don't wear clothes in my own home? Not coming out naked to see you is already very face-giving. Locke shrugged and said very indifferently. You scoundrel, you must have done it on purpose. Lin Wanu stomped his foot and said. Well, I did do it on purpose, otherwise how can I cure your disease? Locke said very calmly. What do you mean by that? Lin Wanu said with a stunned expression, and then turned around with a red face and glared angrily at Locke Dao. Isn't your purpose in looking for me to cure your hidden disease? And my treatment is more special and needs to use a certain part, so it is most convenient to meet you in such a way. Locke said with a wicked smile, his face full of rage. Somewhere, you mean, you shameless, you rogue, big color wolf, big pervert, you don't want to deceive me by this girl will never be fooled, get out. After listening to Locke's words, Lin Wanu suddenly jumped to his feet in anger, immediately cursed, and then turned around and was about to leave. But at this moment, Locke grabbed it with his big hand, and the invisible hand bound Lin Wanu to death, and then he gently hooked his finger, and Lin Wanu flew directly off the ground towards him. What have you done to me? Let me down, let me down. Suddenly caught like this, Lin Wanu couldn't help but be shocked. Then looked at Locke with an incredulous face, and the shock in his eyes was no less than seeing a ghost in the day. Thereupon, amazing value from Lin Wanu plus 679 inches. Ignoring Lin's shock, Locke took control of the invisible hand to himself, and then pinned her to the sofa beside him. It's you who called to meet you, and now it's you who will leave as soon as we meet. What do you treat me for, monkey juggler? Locke sneered. Then, he grabbed the corner of the bath towel with one hand, and then pulled it vigorously, and ripped the bath towel off his body. Seeing this, Lin Wanu closed her eyes as if she screamed loudly, but I don't know if it was because of curiosity or other reasons, she secretly narrowed her eyes halfway through. Suddenly, he and she were stunned, because the picture she imagined did not appear. Locke was wearing a pair of big pants. Suddenly, she couldn't help but be embarrassed and angry. You think it's fun to tease me, don't you? Quote. Well, it's okay, it's slightly inferior to teasing monkeys, you don't have monkeys to play. With a flick of Locke's big hand, he removed the invisible hand that was cast on Lin Wanu's body. You don't have monkeys to play, your whole family doesn't have it. As soon as he heard that he was inferior to the monkey, Lin Wanu couldn't help but be angry. But then she couldn't help but be stunned. She was compared to a monkey, isn't this sick? At this time, she saw Locke looking at her with a smile on his face, and the more banter he had to make. You deliberately, angry old lady, I fought with you. Lin Wanu was as angry as if he was embarrassed, raised his fist and hit Locke. She is a martial arts practitioner, far more powerful than ordinary people. If Locke is an ordinary person at this moment, then this will definitely be beaten by her. But what kind of person is Locke? How can he be beaten by a woman whose vitality is disordered? With just one grab of his hand, he easily held Lin Wanu's fist, and then as soon as he pulled it, Lin Wanu fell directly into his arms. At the moment, he was not wearing a shirt, so Lin Wanu directly came to him as soon as he fell. Ah, you big color wolf, this girl is going to kill you. As soon as he touched Locke's strong muscles, Lin Wanu's face immediately turned red, looking like a piece of burning iron. She desperately wanted to get rid of Locke, but under Locke's power, how could she break free? If you shout again and mumble, do you believe it or not, I will put you on the spot now. Locke tightly grabbed Lin Wanu's hand and said coldly. You let go, I don't shout and move. After a useless struggle, Lin Wanu finally relented. Do you still want to cure your disease? Letting go of Lin Wanu's hand, Locke spoke lightly. As soon as he was released, Lin Wanu immediately rubbed his hands that were scratched and hurt, and said angrily, you are a man without any grace, you actually do it with a woman, I look down on you. I don't want you to cure my disease, I will never betray my virginity in order to cure the disease, you big colored wolf, don't even think about it, this time I am unlucky to meet you, scum, gone, never to see again. With an ugly word, Lin Wanu lifted his foot and planned to leave. But at this moment, Locke laughed and said, do you think if I don't let you go, you can leave? Quote. What do you want? I have no grievances with you, why are you bullying people so much? Don't deceive people too much, be careful that my master pinches you to death. Lin Wanu stopped and said with a scowl on his face. Your master. In fact, I really want to meet your master, a master who is dying even if his own apprentice cultivators are dying, I want to know what he looks like. Locke taunted. You're just dying, don't tell me alarmist, I won't believe your nonsense anymore. Lin Wanu said with an angry hum. Is it a nonsense? You must know best, otherwise why don't you continue to cultivate your secret method these days? Didn't you just call me after trying it and finding that I was right? Locke said with a smile. How do you know, who the hell are you? Lin Wanu looked at Locke in shock, and she found that she couldn't understand the seemingly harmless young man in front of her. This sentence is also what I want to ask you, who are you, and why do you know the cultivation method of Yuan Qi? And where is your division? As long as you tell me honestly, I can treat you for free, and I can also perfect your cultivation secret method to a perfect state, how about it? Locke said with very tempting conditions. The reason why he wanted to know this was not for nothing, there was a reason, and it was also a very important reason, and this reason involved the transdimensional divine bead fragment. According to the system, there were more than a dozen fragments of the superdimensional divine bead scattered throughout the earth, and these fragments were scattered 108,000 miles apart, and it was not so easy to collect. But fortunately, there is a systematic positioning function, so he can find the location of these fragments scattered at any time, but one of them is very strange. That fragment was different from the other fragments, Locke first found that this fragment was located in the Sichuan land, but after several times of positioning, he found that the fragment had disappeared again. He originally thought that someone had moved to another direction, but he later looked closely and found that the total number of fragments was really less, which means that the fragments were not removed, but really disappeared from the system map. But just when Locke was confused by this, he saw the fragment again on the latest positioning. In this way, it shows that this fragment is not really gone, but will appear from time to time, and such a strange situation naturally makes him very attentive. So under his hard work, he found that there was a legend about the secret realm of Kunlun City in the land of Sichuan where the fragment was located. Legend has it that every 15 years or so, a legendary heavenly kingdom will descend on the world, and this heavenly kingdom is Kunlun City. According to rumors, Kunlun City is inhabited by immortals with extraordinary strength, and their lifespan and combat effectiveness are extraordinary, far from being comparable to ordinary people. And as a traverser, Locke naturally knows Kunlun City, among which the Lei Gong, Immortal Dragon, Steel Snake and other characters of Kunlun City are not familiar, but at least they have heard of it. Among them, Marvel's second-tier hero Iron Fist was born in Kunlun City. Of course, these characters were not actually what Locke was concerned about. What he was concerned about now was whether this Kunlun City had anything to do with the fragment of the super-dimensional divine bead that he needed to collect. Because this is really too coincidental, there is a legend about Kunlun City in the place where the fragment is located, which has nothing to do with the 2 points. I am afraid that no one believes it. As far as he knows, the term, Chi, in the Marvel world mainly comes from Kunlun City. The Iron Fist, which obtains the superpower of the Immortal Dragon, can concentrate Chi between his fists, and then burst out with unimaginable power, and can also use Chi to heal others. As for whether the Chi used by the Iron Fist is vitality, this is still up for debate. However, the Oriental woman in front of him was using real vitality, so Locke had reason to suspect that the woman in front of him was inextricably related to the mysterious Kunlun City. But all this is his guess. As for whether it is or not, it depends on whether the woman named Lin Wanu in front of him is willing to cooperate. No, I don't want you to treat. Your treatment is to be lighter than me. Are you stupid to be a mushroom? Lin Wanu's head shook like a rattle and refused. Hearing this, Locke couldn't help but look depressed, and continued, "Who told you that the treatment is to be lighter than you?" Quote, "You said it yourself. You said you want to use a certain part, isn't that what it means? I won't fall for you again." Lin Wanu glanced at Locke and said, "Locke, who said that a certain part must be there? Why is your woman's mind so dirty?" "The part one said refers to my fingers, and if you see clearly, it's my fingers." Locke raised his hand and shook it in front of Lin Wanu. "Really?" Lin Wan looked at Locke Dao with a look of disbelief. "Nonsense, what do you think? Okay, I've explained it to you clearly, now I ask you again, where are you from, and where did the division come from? Tell me, I can immediately help you smooth out the chaotic vitality in your body. At that time, not only will your hidden diseases disappear, but your speed of running vitality will also increase, and your strength will be far stronger than now." Locke continued to ask, "What you said is true. As long as I answer these 2 questions, will you help me? Not frivolous to me. Don't have to pay extra fees." Lin Wanu repeatedly confirmed, extremely distrustful of Locke. "If you continue to ask, I will not cure you, and I will immediately strengthen you, rape you, believe it or not." Locke said speechlessly. "You dare, be careful I cut you there. But the 2 questions you ask aren't something private, and it's okay to tell them." Lin Wan made a scissor gesture at Lockerbie, and then spoke. "This mushroom is like a cold forest. It is a sitting disciple of the Kunlun secret realm Lei Gong, and the master is naturally from the Kunlun Lei Gong." Although Locke had already guessed a little, he was still quite shocked when he heard Lin Wanu say this with his own ears. "I didn't expect to meet someone from Kunlun City in the United States, and the probability was too low. You must know that the people of Kunlun City generally do not come out, unless there are some major events, let alone in the United States. Even in the Sichuan land is afraid that it is impossible to encounter." In this way, he naturally felt very surprised. After confirming that Lin seemed to be from Kunlun City, then he naturally wanted to inquire about the whereabouts of the fragment of the super-dimensional divine bead next. Of course, this thing is extremely important. He naturally can't ask directly. What he wants to do is enter Kunlun City to investigate it personally. But Kunlun City was extremely mysterious, and it was simply difficult to find the entrance with his own ability, so he hit the woman in front of him with his idea. Since Lin Wanu was from Kunlun City, she naturally knew the entrance to the secret realm, so if she could let her lead the way, then he would naturally be much easier. Thinking like this, he immediately changed his tone, and then asked knowingly, Kunlun's secret realm, is it the legendary heavenly kingdom that only comes to the world once every 15 years? Quote. As soon as these words came out, Lin Wanu's face obviously appeared with a look of surprise, and then she looked at Locke in disbelief, and said, I didn't expect that your knowledge is quite broad, and you have even heard of this legend. I thought that only people knew. Quote. Oh, don't forget, I have half-blood, so my emotions are not lighter than yours, and in terms of strength, I am much stronger than you, so it is normal to know this legend. Locke shrugged. By the way, speaking of Yuan Qi, I'm curious why you, a non-Kunlun person, have such high attainments in the use of Yuan Qi, and where are you from? Lin Wan looked at Locke with a curious face, as if he wanted to see through it. Faced with Lin Wanu's question, Locke said indifferently, it seems that I don't have the need to answer your question, so I refuse to answer. Quote. You, petty man. Lin Wan immediately pouted when he heard Locke's attitude, looking like a gas bag. Che, I don't need you to treat me, why should I tell you? Of course, if you can pay the corresponding price, I may consider revealing a little information to you. Locke said, pretending to be mysterious. At what cost? Lin Wanu asked curiously. Like kissing me, or letting me touch it? Locke raised his eyebrows and said with a bad smile. Ah, you roll, you dead wolf, don't even think about it. Lin Wanu immediately hugged himself with both hands, looking self-protective, looking very funny. Don't you let you touch it. Hi, that's a shame. It seems that I can't cure your hidden disease, because I have to use my hands to touch your body to heal the disease. Locke spread out his hand with a helpless expression. Lin Wanu, you are a big liar, you must be intentional, where do you need to touch the patient's body, you just want to be lighter than me. Listening to Locke's words, Lin Wanu's face turned red. Cut, believe it or not, the vitality in your body is very disordered, and some parts have accumulated too much unrefined vitality but have nowhere to go, which causes your meridians to swell in pain, and the main cause of your hidden disease is also because of this. I don't know what secret method you have cultivated, but I guess this secret method should be able to speed up the speed at which you absorb vitality, but there is a saying that if you want to be fast, you can't reach it. Moreover, your meridian foundation is not as solid as it is, so you rashly speed up the absorption of vitality, which will not only not benefit you in the slightest, but will also harm your meridians. This time is 417 long. All kinds of problems will naturally come. Your hidden disease is only the beginning, fortunately found early, otherwise the result will be more serious. When the time is not refined vitality to burst the meridians, then you will be completely wasted. Locke explained lightly. Can it really cure me? Although she didn't like Locke's bad temperament very much, she had to admit that Locke was right in everything, and her current symptoms were like this. So even if she didn't like it, she still kind of believed what the other party said. Of course, if you can, why lie to you? Locke nodded. Except for that touch you said, is there no other treatment? Although she really wanted to cure her hidden disease, she felt a collapse at the thought of a man's hand touching her body. It's not nothing, but I'm afraid you can't stand it even more. Locke touched his chin and said very seriously. What way? Hearing this, Lin seemed to have caught a life-saving straw, and quickly asked. Cultivate with me, if you are willing, not only can you cure your hidden diseases, but your cultivation will also rise, which is really a great thing to kill two birds with one stone. Locke looked at Lin and said ambiguously. You did it on purpose. Chi Tooth Tickle said. Everything is a voluntary act, you pick one yourself, you can also cure it, I respect your choice. Locke spread his hands, looking indifferent. HMPH, you'd better be able to cure me. Once you are found to be deliberately playing me, I will definitely kill you, do what you say. Lin Wanu said angrily with a red face. Then may I ask Lin Da Beauty, are you choosing? For Lin Wanu CIDB threat, Locke did not pay attention to it at all, just Lin Wanu's strength, let him double, she is not Locke's opponent, so afraid of a ball. The first one. You'd better not be discovered by me that you did it on purpose, otherwise I won't let you go in my life. Lin Wanu continued to threaten. Okay. If the threatening words are not enough, in the nonsense, I will directly give you the default choice to calculate the repair. Locke waved his hand. Well, I endure. Let's go. Lin Wanu took a deep breath and said. What to start? Are you a doctor, or am I a doctor? The preparations have not been done, first do the preparations. Preparations? It's just a medical treatment, what else does it take? Lin Wan asked as if she didn't know why. I said that need is needed, and I won't cure any more nonsense. Locke was speechless. Okay, what do you say to prepare? Lin Wanu said angrily. Lie on the couch, Locke said lightly, but his tone was quite serious. What, didn't you say not to be frivolous with me? What are you going to do? Lin Wanu immediately turned around and looked at Locke Dao with fire-breathing eyes. If the eyes can kill, Locke at this time is afraid that he has died no less than 100 times. Can you be pure in your mind? I am convenient for treatment. Hurry, I'm in a hurry, I'll accompany my girlfriend out shopping later, you've already delayed me a lot of time. Locke said indifferently. But his heart is very cool, this woman is too ignorant of evil, if you don't treat her, you can't do it. Can you stop this? At this time, Lin Wan was twisted and pinched, and said with a reluctant face. Hearing this, Locke shook his head silently. Looking at the perfect ketone body lying on the sofa, Locke was about to collapse. According to his old habits, this will definitely be a beast. But to be honest, Lin Wanu didn't have a good impression of him like this woman, and judging from various behaviors, this woman was simply simple in some ways, and he just wanted to tease her at first. This is such a joke, saying that you have to undress to treat. This method of coaxing a 3-year-old child, no one will believe it, especially women. But this woman believed it so stupidly, and really took it off. Even though she was so reluctant, so twisted and pinched, she finally took it off. In addition to showing that she is really simple, this also indirectly shows that she really trusts Locke and desperately wants to treat her hidden diseases. In this way, if he takes advantage of people's dangers, he is very unhuman. Flirting with a sister to provoke a girl to have it with you willingly, that's the skill. But if the woman in front of him is forced in this case, it is a shameful rapist. Such a shameful thing, he naturally will not do it. Resisting the urge in his heart, Locke quickly walked to Lin Wanu's side, and then a palm gently pressed on Lin Wanu's silky back, and the majestic vitality in his body poured into Lin Wanu's meridians along his palm. How to quell a rebellion? Naturally, it is to let a group of powerful armed forces set things right. The same is true for treating Lin Wanu's yuan qi disorder. Lin Wanu hastily accelerated the speed of absorbing yuan qi when the foundation was not well laid, resulting in a part of the yuan qi not being refined, and finally became an uncontrollable rebel stirring up trouble in the meridians. And if you want to solve these rebels, it is actually very simple, that is, use his own ability to completely eliminate and absorb those vitality, so it will naturally be solved. As for the damage suffered by her meridians, this Locke could use his own vitality to heal, and then supplemented it with medication. Ruoline seemed to be really his woman, and he didn't mind spending a little praise to upgrade some medicines, or directly buying some useful pills for her to use. But it's a pity, who called this woman not? Therefore, this kind of welfare treatment is naturally gone, and he is willing to use his vitality to treat, which is already very good. Time was slowly passing, and half an hour later, Locke withdrew his palm with a tired face. Okay, you go to the bathroom and take a shower. Locke let out a long sigh, looking very tired. He was not pretending, this was his real reaction. Because Lin Wanu's meridians are not as tough as this, he must be careful when treating, so as not to make any mistakes due to his own carelessness, such as draining his mind. After half an hour's effort, he not only devoured and absorbed the unenergetic energy in Lin Wanu's body, but also cleaned up her meridians by the way, and forced some impurities in the meridians out. Immediately, a foul-smelling black dirt drained from her pores and polluted the entire room. Smelling the stench and looking at the dirt on his body, Lin Wan muttered incredulously, "This is washing and cutting hair." Quote, "It's not far from the real washing and cutting hair, but it's almost the same for you now." Locke nodded and said, "Can you turn your face around? I'll borrow your bathroom for it." This would, she really believed that Locke was helping her heal. In this way, Her tone of voice couldn't help but soften a lot, and she listened quite gently. I have seen everything that should have been seen, touched everything that should have been touched, what else is there to be shy? Locke teased with a smile. You, rascal. Lin Wanu was surprisingly not angry, but quickly walked into the bathroom with a red face wrapped in a bath towel, and then there was a sound of rattling in the bathroom. Through the frosted glass in the bathroom, Locke could faintly see the graceful figure inside, but after just a few glances, he shook his head. Then he whispered, "The twisted melon is not sweet, I still wait for you to climb into my bed voluntarily and come back to tease you properly." Quote. A few minutes later, Lin Wanu just walked out wrapped in a bath towel, her underwear and panties were all wet, and now there was no change at all. She was suddenly a little glad that Locke had let her undress just now, otherwise she would not even have clean clothes. In this way, it is very troublesome for her to go home, and now only the underwear are wet, and she can't go home in the gap, which has at least less impact on her. Ask for flowers. However, when she thought that Locke said just now that she could still perfect the secret method she cultivated to a perfect state, she was a little reluctant to go home so soon. After seeing Locke's powerful ability, her impression of Locke now has changed drastically, and at this moment, she completely believes Locke. Locke said that if she could perfect the secret method she cultivated to a perfect state, she believed that the other party would be able to do it, and the only thing she had to worry about now was whether Locke was willing to do it. Why, aren't you very worried about what I'm going to do to you? How dare you stand in front of me with a bathrobe around, and you are not afraid that I will tear your bathrobe off? Looking at Lin Wanu standing motionless in front of him, Locke was a little stunned. Ah, don't you dare. Hearing this, Lin Wanu was startled, quickly grabbed the clean clothes on the sofa, and quickly ran back to the bathroom to change. A moment later, she twisted and walked out, although the outer clothes were worn, but there was a gap inside, which couldn't help but make her very unaccustomed. But now there is no way to do it in special circumstances, it can only be done. You said before that you can still perfect the secret method of my cultivation to a perfect state, is this true? Lin Wanu looked at Locke expectantly. Do you think I need to lie to you? Locke asked rhetorically. So can you perfect it for me now? Lin Wanu said with a look of anticipation. Can't. To Lin Wanu's surprise, Locke refused directly without thinking. Why? Lin Wanu couldn't help but hang her head in disappointment. The reason is very simple. Because I am not happy now, I am not in the mood to perfect the secret method for you. If you want me to help you, then try to make me happy, so that as soon as I am happy, maybe I will perfect your secret method. Locke shrugged and said with a treacherous smile. Want me to make you happy? You dream. HMPH. This girl is too lazy to pay attention to you. If it is not perfect, it will not be perfect. Big deal, I will not practice in the future. Lin said as if she were nursing, and then she fled and left Locke's house, as if she was afraid that Locke would force her to leave her behind. Looking at Lin Wanu's departing fare back, Locke laughed playfully, and then said as if talking to himself, the story between you and me has just begun, and I will have time to play with you in the future. Seeing Lin Wanu leave not long ago, Locke made a phone call and pulled Alice to the house. Just now Lin Wanu was like stirring his blood boiling. If he didn't vent the fire, then how could he get it? After a cloud of passion, Locke's hot heart because of Lin Wanu finally calmed down. The rest of the day seemed to be calm again, but just a few days later, a news item flooded the TV. Actually, I'm Iron Man. Tony Stark stood in front of the group of reporters, then hesitated for a moment before speaking. As soon as this remark came out, it was like a bomb dropped on the surface of a calm lake, and immediately set off a stormy wave, and in the next few minutes, this big news spread around the world. Since then, translated names such as Iron Man, etc., have spread around the world. 417 Tony Stark's path to superheroes has officially begun. Looking at Tony in the news. Stark, Locke shook his head and smiled bitterly, this guy is really high profile. Quote. However, after sighing, he himself had a hypothesis. If he also announced the identity of his black-clothed masked man in front of all reporters one day, would it also make such a wave? Perhaps, that wave will be more terrifying, maybe it will get a wave of amazing value. But just think about this thing, he doesn't want to become a superhero in people's eyes, the key is not that awareness, at least not yet. And while Locke was still watching TV and thinking about it, a call came from Tony Stark's phone rang. The content of the phone is simple: Tony Stark is going to hold a Stark Industrial Exposition in Flushing, New York, and there will be many celebrities in attendance, and he wants to invite Locke, the great benefactor, to participate with him. Locke naturally did not miss the opportunity to participate in such a large-scale event, and he not only agreed to Tony, but also asked him to give him a chance to appear on stage. At the small evening party at the school, he could stun the crowd with his performance, thus gaining hundreds of thousands of praises. And Tony Stark's Expo has tens of thousands of viewers on site alone, not to mention that it will be broadcast around the world. Such a great opportunity to earn amazing credit, how could Locke miss it? Hearing that Locke also took the initiative to ask to perform on stage, Tony naturally couldn't help but be overjoyed. Locke was a completely godlike figure in his eyes, originally worried that he would not be invited, but now he did not expect an unexpected surprise. Time flew by, and 3 days later, Stark Industries Fair officially opened. Because Locke wanted to perform, he entered the venue one step ahead of all the audience, and then he walked into the backstage of the evening party leisurely alone. Stark Industries' deep pockets must have gone without saying much. For this industrial fair, Tony invited almost all the famous people in the United States. Film stars, technology bigwigs, business bigwigs, political celebrities, and even military bigwigs, etc., basically can come. It can be seen that Tony Stark attaches great importance to this expo. And the stage of the venue today belongs to Tor in addition to being at the beginning. Since then, there have been various song and dance shows. After all, the real industrial technology exhibition will only start after tomorrow, and this evening is just a catchy gimmick. Walking into the backstage of the evening party, it was a huge dressing room, and at this moment, there was already a large group of performers preparing in the dressing room. Most of these people are now popular song and dance stars, otherwise Tony would not have invited them. In addition to popular stars, some other green leaves are naturally used as foils. At this moment, the song and dance stars are methodically making preparations, and some are getting together to talk and laugh, and to their level of stars, the social circle is basically fixed within a certain range. After all, everyone is afraid of scandals, so the bigger the celebrities, the more fixed the social circle, because only in this way are they not afraid of saying something wrong and then being pitted. Locke was still wearing his casual sportswear, and to be honest, in addition to his very handsome face, his outfit was really a little chilly. So the performers who were preparing backstage at the evening party just looked at him and looked away with a look of disgust. After all, there are so many handsome men in the entertainment industry. Just in this backstage, there are many handsome guys who can compete with Locke, so Locke is really not bright in the gathering of stars. Coupled with his cold dress, everyone thought that he was a staff member at the bottom here, afraid that he was not even a field worker, so where would these high-ranking big names pay attention to him? If I can look at you, it is already very polite. Seeing that he was unattended, Locke just smiled and didn't care. He was not a star now, and it was normal for these people to not care about him. If anyone pays attention to him, it is weird. Without the eyes of unexpected people, he took care of himself to find an empty dressing table and looked in the mirror, and then put on a pose very stinky beauty. What a handsome word. Locke smiled confidently. But at this time, another mocking voice sounded. Poof, where is the dirt bun? You are also called handsome in this costume. I am afraid that there is no misunderstanding of the word handsome. Quickly get out of my place and go back to study. Quote. The person who spoke was a tall man. This man has long hair that looks very dashing, royal blue eyes, and a very scum. The key is that this man's appearance is not inferior to Locke, with his very rock and roll dress. Indeed 3.1 is quite handsome. But no matter how handsome he is, as soon as he opens his mouth, he will be insulting to people, and the tone of his speech is scaring in the light and in the dark, so how can Locke give him a good face? However, just when he was about to clean up this man, at this time, a beautiful oriental woman with white skin squeezed in from Locke's side. Then he said to the man with a humble face, Mr. William, I have composed this piece. You can look at it again to see if it can enter your eyes. If you can, please give me a chance to go on stage. Quote. This woman was very beautiful, and Locke took a closer look to find that this woman was also a half-breed like himself. And the same mixture of East and West, as for which Eastern country is mixed, this is unknown. Looking at the sheet music handed to him, the man named William didn't even look at it, and shot it out. Miss Schilling, please figure out if the occasion is okay. Now that I'm preparing for the show, do you think I have time to watch your broken thing? And I've told you many times that if you really want to perform on stage, come to my room and look for me instead of bothering me in front of this public. William leaned into the ear of the girl named Hilling angrily. He spoke in a very heavy tone, but his voice was very small, as if he only wanted the half-race woman to hear. However, the man underestimated Locke's hearing, and he naturally heard clearly when he stood on the side. After listening, the corner of his mouth pulled up a disgusted sneer, and if he wanted to go on stage, he went to the room to find him. Isn't this a clear rule that he wants to uncover? Mr. William, can it not be like that? Please give me a chance. The woman named Schilling bit her lip and said with a look of disappointment. Opportunity comes at a price, otherwise wouldn't it be a pity for your beautiful face? Go back and think about it yourself, or you can find someone else to try and see if they are willing to give you a chance. William smiled, his eyes full of disdain. Hearing this, the woman named Ling picked up the sheet music that was thrown on the ground, and then wanted to find other big-name singers to help, but before she could get closer, she was pushed out by the bodyguards around those big names. In this way, let alone let them see their own scores, even if they are close, it is impossible to get close. Not only that, being so troubled by her, the management personnel in the background immediately ran over to inquire about the situation, and as soon as they heard that Zilling harassed the celebrities present, the management immediately walked towards Zilling with an ugly face. This young lady, which team are you part of? Please show your ID, or I'll drive you away. The manager said very seriously. I came with Mr. Williams' team. I am the reserve dancer of Mr. Williams' team. Don't drive me away, I will definitely not disturb you again. Schilling apologized and bowed to everyone present. But everyone responded to her with a look of disgust and a disdainful sneer. No, from now on you are no longer the reserve dancer of my team. I don't need an ignorant woman like you. You can roll, completely disappear from me, and don't come to me for any chance in the future. For those broken songs you wrote, I will never give you a chance. At this moment, William suddenly looked at Zilling and said coldly. Mr. William, right, I'm sorry. Schilling wanted to say something, but before she could finish speaking, she was grabbed by the manager and dragged outside. And at this moment, a calm voice sounded. Hey, someone else's girl's family, can you be polite to others? What to do so rudely? How ungraceful. Locke said as he walked over to the manager's side, and then grabbed the man's hand. Suddenly, the man screamed in pain. Then Locke flicked it lightly and threw the man aside. You, what are you? Dare to make trouble here? Believe it or not, I can't let you eat and go around. The manager pointed at Locke and said angrily. Hearing this, Locke smiled, and then took out his mouth document and said, see clearly, I am also the performer of today's evening party. I am alone in a team, now I have to make trouble. Quote. You're a performer too. Ha ha ha, are you kid going to perform how to beg on stage? Look at your sloppy look, also worthy. Security guard, I suspect that this guy's documents are fake. Please throw him out immediately, otherwise I refuse tonight's performance. William looked at Locke and mocked. But as soon as he finished speaking, Locke slapped over, only to hear a snap, and the male star named William covered his face and fell to the ground, looking very miserable. His sudden slap immediately frightened everyone. Suddenly, a group of people looked at Locke with an incredulous look, as if they had seen a ghost. At the same time, a large wave of astonishment values quickly brushed over, reaching as many as 5,000 points in an instant. The man named William was even more confused, as if he had been beaten stupid. It took a moment before he reacted, and then while covering his face, he pointed at Locke with a finger that trembled with anger and said, You, how dare you hit me? Bodyguard, still stunned what to do, kill him for me. Quote. Hearing this, Locke smiled coldly, controlled the invisible hand, and suddenly fainted the bodyguards around this man. Looking at the group of bodyguards who suddenly fainted inexplicably, William looked confused, and did not understand what happened at all. And just then, he heard the man speak again. Still a big star, Lao Su has never heard your name, I see you are a piece of. Pretend to be forced in front of me, you are especially untidy. I also refused tonight's performance, So I gave you a face, and now I officially inform you that you don't need to prepare for today's evening party, because you have been withdrawn. Locke said seriously. Hearing this, the man named William laughed. Not only him, but everyone else also looked at Locke like a neurotic, and then covered their mouths and laughed. Because everyone knows that today's evening meeting is made by 417 Tony Stark's personal assistant, Miss Potts, is solely responsible, and no one has the right to change the course of the evening except her. Therefore, at this moment, Locke is just a posturing neuropathy in their eyes. Even the woman named Zilling quickly pulled the corner of Larlock's clothes, and then shook her head at him with gratitude in her eyes, as if to tell him not to make trouble. Seeing this, Locke also laughed, and then looked at the half-race woman very seriously. Do you want to show your singing voice on stage? Quote. Hearing this, the woman quickly nodded her head, her eyes full of yearning. Well, your opportunity is coming. From now on, his show will be replaced by you. You have to show your strength, don't let me down. Locke said lightly. Ha ha ha, you said substitute and replace. Boy, who do you think you are? William laughed disdainfully. It doesn't matter who I am, the important thing is that if I say cancel your show, it's not negotiable. With that, Locke shouted at the door. Suddenly, a slender woman walked in, and when she saw this woman, everyone present was shocked, because this person was none other than Tony Stark's personal assistant, Miss Potts. Combined with what Locke said just now, everyone closed their mouths at this moment, looking at Locke with disbelief in their eyes. Could it be? Is what this kid said true? What Locke said is naturally true. This kind of joke he is not in the mood to make. Everyone does not know. In addition to being in charge of the evening party, Potts has a more important thing to do this night is to entertain Locke. Locke is Tony's lifesaver, and not just once, so Locke is a very important person for Tony. In this way, Locke's desire to cross out a performer at the evening party is a trivial matter. As soon as Potts came in, he smiled and said to Locke, Mr. Locke, I understand what you mean, I will handle it for you immediately, and it will definitely satisfy you. Quote. After that, she turned her head to look at the man named William, and then frowned. Mr. William, you shouldn't be so blind. Mr. Rock is a distinguished guest of our Stark group, so I'm sorry to inform you that your performance tonight is cancelled. Quote. After that, he made a gesture of invitation to William, obviously asking him to get out. Seeing this, William immediately shouted angrily, You are in breach of contract, I will sue you, I will make you pay 10 times the liquidated damages. Quote. Hearing this, Potts looked at William with a sneer and said, You can go and sue, if you want to never perform again from now on, you can try. Quote. As soon as these words came out, the man named William was immediately stunned, and then his face was extremely difficult to see, but he did not dare to say anything more, but left in ashes. Go slowly, don't send it. Looking at William who left in ash, Locke smiled and looked very bad. But where William dares to hit him now, let alone beat, even the courage to scold is gone. Such an amazing scene immediately stunned everyone present. Suddenly, Locke received more than 10,000 points of admiration, which couldn't help but make Locke even happier. All the stars present did not expect that the scruffy-dressed Locke background was so terrifying, and Potts actually listened to his words to withdraw people, which is simply incredible. Suddenly, the eyes of all the stars present looking at Locke immediately became different, especially those female stars. It was like seeing a baby. I don't know why, the more they look at Locke at the moment, the more they feel that the other party is handsome, and they are simply handsome and want them to dedicate their lives. This world is such a reality. When you are nothing, how handsome you look is at most a little white face in the eyes of outsiders, but once you have a status and identity, even if it is a pig, outsiders will feel that the pig has clear eyebrows. Not to mention that Locke is still really handsome. Although they still don't know what Locke GU does, no matter what it is, judging from Miss Potts' attitude towards him, Locke is definitely a hidden big guy. So now they have the opportunity to be alone with him, they naturally refuse to let go of this opportunity. They can be close to each other, kneeling and licking if they can. Anyway, the only purpose must be to take down the man Locke. Suddenly, a large group of stars who had not put Locke at all came over with a smile and wanted to talk to him, but in the face of these people, Locke smiled coldly. Birds are lazy birds. He was led by Potts to a separate room, accompanied by a woman named Hilling. You guys talk slowly, I won't bother you. Call me at any time if you have something. Potts smiled at Locke, and then withdrew very sensibly. Because Tony is a playboy, in her eyes, Locke should be similar to Tony. After all, people are grouped together. So in her opinion, Locke must have taken a fancy to this beautiful woman with a hint of oriental charm in front of her. So, how could she stay here as a light bulb without knowing it? In other words, she had dealt with countless pieces for Tony before, and now she was naturally familiar with the road. As everyone knows, she really misunderstood Locke. The woman in front of her is indeed very beautiful, there is no doubt about this, but not all beautiful women he wants to have. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so calm outside just now. You know, just now, there were several female stars named Zilling who looked and were not inferior to the female star in front of him who was about to climb on him. If he really wants to, he hooks his finger, and these female stars are afraid that they will climb into her bed immediately. But obviously, this kind of woman Locke is completely unsightly. And the reason why he helped the woman in front of him was really because the strong desire for opportunity in the other party's eyes infected him. He doesn't know when he hasn't seen this kind of persistent person for his dreams again. The key is that this woman can still have a bottom line when pursuing her dreams, and this is even more rare. Today he is purely helpful and does not involve anything else. Like today's situation, even Locke himself felt a little incredible. After all, he is a typical flesh-eating man, with such a beautiful woman in front of him, but there are not many opportunities to give birth to evil thoughts. Sit down, this is the lounge Tony prepared for me, now it is yours, the evening party is about to start, are you sure? Locke looked at Hilling and smiled. Thank you, really thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I will definitely work hard and will never let you down. Shiring's excited eyes were red. She has paid too much to realize her dream of becoming a singer, and she never dreamed that she would get a chance to perform officially today, which is her dream opportunity. Today, it was so unexpectedly realized, and everything was because of the tall and handsome man in front of him. Right, by the way, are your name Locke? Are you also a half-breed? Schilling looked at Locke a little nervously. Locke smiled. Is it so obvious to mix? You're right, I'm a gorgeous mixed race, my name is Sherlock, I don't know the real name of the beauty. Quote. Locke said as he extended his right hand towards Schilling. I am Japanese American, my name is Junko Shirin, and I am 20 years old. Schilling shyly shook Locke's hand. Japanese American hybrid, Junko Shirin. Locke was surprised. Yes, Matthew 7 wow. Junko Schilling said in Japanese to Locke. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.